Everybody, welcome back to Film Tennis Podcast. In this side, it is this far from the mic, and on the other side, it is.
Many miles away, not across the table at a McDonald's. Like some people took us seriously on that. No, many, few hundred miles away, for now at
Yeah,
least, is
yeah,
Jake on the other mic.
yeah. Whereas I'm not gonna double down on that because I doubled down on that like the episode after that one. I doubled down on that on the for the people following the thread, for the people following like the narrative as it's being written on the Wikipedia page. That was a joke made on the Skinamarink episode.
Yeah,
And then on the what was it? On the Terminator episode, I said that we were recording at in Japan, I think is what I
yeah,
said. So I think me making that joke kind of diffuses the idea that we were ever actually at a McDonald's. We're not at McDonald's.
yeah.
We're actually I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to unveil the truth about where this podcast is being recorded right now.
Shut
Okay?
him down. Cut his mic.
Everybody listening, this is actually where this podcast is recorded. This podcast is recorded at the nearest Chick-fil-A to Duke University in North Carolina.
Yeah, that is correct.
That is correct.
Although, you know what? I will say, I could go for a Happy Meal right now. I'll tell you that. McDonald's is one of those things I have like, 2 or 3 times a year. It's
Yeah.
it's the bomb every time though. I think the
Yeah,
last
it
time I
is,
had
isn't it?
McDonald's might have been with you. Me, you, and your brother went to
Maybe.
McDonald's. That was like a weekend,
Oh,
like
yeah, that's
a
right.
year
That's
ago,
right.
maybe.
We did. Yeah, I think so. That's right. I think that was the last time I did too, honestly.
Yeah.
Um,
You know what movie
yeah.
really makes me want to eat McDonald's is Super Size Me.
Precisely.
Because that movie's like supposed to, the documentary Super Size Me.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. The one about that guy like losing weight. Didn't he lose weight
No, he gained
instead
weight.
of gaining? He gained.
No, he
Okay.
gained. Oh yeah, he gained, bro.
Yeah.
He was like near
I
death.
get confused because they. Was he really? Didn't we meet that guy?
No. You might be confusing it with something else. No, because like we watched the movie in one of our classes, but I had seen that documentary like way before that, Super Size Me. But the irony of it is, the irony is that the movie is supposed to make you not want to eat McDonald's. And I just want McDonald's after I watch that movie because like the whole
After
movie,
eating that movie, it's like
yeah,
you
because
gotta make a McDonald's run.
yeah, but it's like my animal brain. Like the logical part of my brain is watching this guy. For anyone who hasn't seen Super Size Me, it's this documentary where this guy basically eats McDonald's. I think it's for 30 days straight for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just as an experiment, to demonstrate that what we already know, which is that McDonald's is
Yeah.
fucking horrible for you. And
Yeah.
by the end, his doctors are like, I don't think he even makes it to the 30th day because his doctors are like, your heart is like about to give out. Like he's like Godzilla in that Godzilla versus Destroya, when his like heart's a nuclear
Yeah.
reactor. It's like melting down. And his doctors
Yeah.
were like, stop eating McDonald's, please. And he stops.
Godzilla, please stop eating McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly. but the my logical part, the logical part of my brain, of course, is like, oh yeah, McDonald's is terrible for you. I would never, eat it every day like that, and yeah, that's awful.
Yeah.
But dude, then the animal part of my brain has been watching this guy for an hour and a half just
Just
chow
eat
down
bunch of
burgers,
fries,
fries, milkshakes,
Yeah.
McDonald's breakfast biscuits, and the animal part of my brain is just like, oh, I want McDonald's so bad.
Yeah.
I want it.
It's one of those instances where it's like that movie proves that it's like, positive or negative. What is it? What's the actual saying here? It's like, there's no bad publicity. Yeah, there's no bad
Oh, yeah.
publicity. Any publicity is good publicity. Yeah, there it goes.
Yeah, they probably didn't lose a dime after that movie.
Oh no, they probably made more money. They're like, wait, let me. I bet that movie just inspired a bunch of people to say, wait, let me do it. I'm gonna go out and eat. And that's why I got confused because somebody actually did it. There was a guy. This was like in the news a few years ago. There was a guy, not even a few years ago, maybe like almost a decade ago. There was a guy that did that but he wasn't eating it like for a month. He was just eating it like total. That was just all that he ate. And that guy was losing weight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was losing weight.
That's weird.
All that he would eat was just like a meal from McDonald's, and then he was shedding weight. Funnily.
That's unbelievable, dude. I'm sure it still
Yeah.
wasn't doing any good for his arteries.
Might have been doing stuff for his physical appearance, but it was not doing anything good for him inside of him.
No, not
But
at
he's
all.
probably screaming.
Well, audience.
Sweet release.
Yeah. Oh, God. Well, audience, I want to ask you, audience, Film Tangents audience, what does the phrase Spreadie Gibbs mean to you? Because it didn't mean anything to me this past weekend until a guy named Edward, who you guys might know as my co-host, who's currently laughing on the other end, sent me something about, you said something like, have you heard about Spreadie Gibbs? And I'm like, what?
Look, man. Look, man, I had to do to you what the internet did to me. I was like, Jake has to know about this.
Yeah.
because like it seems that I've been like something is going on. Some kind of like intergalactic connection is going on between my playlist, or rather not my playlist, but me listening to these albums alphabetically and the universe. Because I listened to Frank Ocean the week that I was listening to that guy. All that stuff was going on with him. And now that I'm listening to Freddie Gibbs, all this stuff is going on with him.
Yeah, what's that about?
Like, what is this about? Maybe there's like a curse, like with like there's albums that I'm listening to, man.
You're about to be on the G's. We're about to hear that G-Eazy, like we're about to hear that G-Eazy was like caught publicly masturbating or something. No, I wouldn't recommend.
I'm not gonna be listening to G-Eazy.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd be surprised you even listen to his discography.
No, he'll be spared from that. But I'm pretty sure that when I was listening to like there was some stuff going on with him. So there's been a handful of coincidences with me listening to artists. And this time, it was me in the middle of listening to Freddie Gibbs. I wake up one day, see the news, and then I think to myself, I need to give this guy a break. I was like, I need to stop listening to Freddie Gibbs for a couple days. But I'm gonna let you elaborate on what happened.
Yeah, so this comes from allhiphop.com. Freddie Gibbs is the subject of thousands of tweets following his purported ex-girlfriend's social media tirade. The Alfredo rapper, that's one of his albums, started trending on Friday after apparent porn star Destiny Creams accused Gibbs of dropping her when she got pregnant with her child. Like,
could you say her name again?
Destiny Creams.
Go ahead.
The situation quickly spiraled out of control, with the woman claiming Gibbs sent her a graphic photo still in her possession. In between accusations, she casually tweeted, quote, "Blocking me on Twitter while I have a picture of you spreading your asshole on my phone is insane. I'ma spare them that one, though," unquote. For some twisted reason, the woman was asked I love how they're like, for some twisted reason, the woman was asked numerous times to post the photo. How that, like, for some twisted reason? Why?
For some twisted reason.
Why would that surprise this blogger that people asked for that photo? Of course, people.
There's a lot of freaks out. There's a lot of freaks out there that want to see those dingleberries.
She added, quote, "Y'all, I'm not posting the asshole pic. I was just in a silly, goofy mood. Stop asking," unquote. Gibbs has been relatively silent on Twitter, posting just 2 comments that appear to relate to
He has been relatively silent on Twitter.
I'll bet.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, I bet. He said, quote, "I ain't have a phone." That's like the best response. which was followed by a series of laughing emojis. As for the woman, she was nowhere near finished. She seemed highly offended. People were questioning why she wanted to keep Gibbs' baby, knowing he wasn't ready. Why did you keep,
Rich.
quote, why did you keep his baby, she wrote, because this is my baby too. This is a baby we literally planned. My heart was in it. I'm pro-choice. But I could not go through the procedure knowing I purposely brought this baby here. My child will be taken care of regardless. Ooh, it's getting dark. When someone suggested she should have taken the Plan B pill, she asked, do we really live in a world where women can only want their baby if the father is involved too? Like, damn, I can't keep my baby? Shit. This is funny. Her latest tweet, I guess her latest tweet arrived on Sunday. She wrote, some of you, quote, some of y'all seem upset that I'm not sharing the picture, and that's a little concerning. That's pretty funny. Unfortunately for Freddie Gibbs, the mere thought of this photo has sparked a cascade of memes and a new nickname for him, Spreadie Gibbs. Check out some of the reactions below. Let me see if there's any good.
Fits right in there.
Oh my god. Someone said it's not even 10 a.m. and people are on Twitter calling Freddie Gibbs Spreadie Gibbs.
Man, that's what I woke up to. That's what I woke up to. I went in there and I just looked at the news and I was like, what is this? What is this? You know?
Oh my god.
What is going on? And then the greatest fear that I had, or like the greatest just like, oh, don't tell me, was that I was going to bump into that photo. I was like, is there going to be a photo of this man online? I didn't want that for him. I was like, he's not going to recover from this.
No.
I was like, he's not. I was like, if on top of the whole like meme that's happening about him right now, if on top of that there is a photo online about it, he's never going to recover.
No.
I was like, he's done. His career's over.
No, dude.
You can't show your face in public after that.
Oh no, man! Yeah, and that's like one of my favorite rappers, man. I can't have that happening, dude. This might be the funniest fucking tweet I've ever seen in my life, dude. I have to send this to you, but basically it's a picture of. It's okay. So the person tweeted DJ Academics finding out why Freddie Gibbs is trending, and it's a picture. It's a picture of the fat chipmunk from Alvin and the Chipmunks, like smiling at the camera.
Oh, I've seen that.
Dude, that's like, dude, that is one of the funniest fucking memes. Dude, that's the funniest tweet I've ever seen. That is so funny, man. Oh my god.
I told you. I texted you. I was like, you know, Academics is gonna have a field day with this.
Oh yeah.
Like him and Freddie just had like beef forever, you know, and he just get the one up on him, and it's like, oh, now you have it. Now it's been like delivered to you. The jokes that you could make endlessly about him.
Oh god, man. Wow. Yeah. I don't know, you know, I feel like Freddie Gibbs has been taking a lot of L's in the past year or so.
He's taking a lot of L's. He has, because he got, you know, he got beat by Jim Jones, and then he was beefing with Benny the Butcher. And then he was like on a date, I think last year, and he got like stumped by like a bunch of people.
He got jumped?
Huh?
He got jumped, you said?
Yeah, he got jumped. He got jumped and stumped by like a bunch of folks. Like from what I read in the news, it was like a group of like people just like saw him in public and just like jumped him.
Damn.
And now this, dude, the guy's been taking too many L's.
Damn, why'd he get jumped? Were they Gunna's people? I know he's beefing with Gunna for a little while there.
I think it might have to do with that. I think it's just like he has so many beefs. He has the Jim Jones beef. He just has so many beefs. And I think when you're like creating so much conflict with people and you're a public figure, I think, you know, you should probably be looking out for yourself a little bit more and just being out there on your own. You know, like people are gonna come up to you. You know, that's what's been happening to like 6ix9ine. 6ix9ine's been beating up like 3 times. There's like video of it. The people who have beaten him up have recorded themselves beating him up and have put it online.
Yeah, that was one thing we never got to talk about a few weeks ago was Tekashi 6ix9ine getting beat up. There's that video of him. He's like you probably saw that one where he's in the bathroom at the gym.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
those guys are just like stomping on him, man. Jeez, that 6ix9ine is he he's a really good example of how dangerous it is to become a fake gangster. I mean, to become like a
He should have done
gangster, but
time.
especially if you're not, you're not
Yeah.
bout it, as Freddie Gibbs would
Yeah,
say.
you're not about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he should have done. Like, I feel like if he could maybe look back at it, he probably would have been like, "I'll just do the time," instead of being like a snitch. Because that's the same thing that I guess what's his name, Young Thug is like trying to prevent from
Mm.
happening to what's his name, Gunna. Is that the name of the guy?
Yeah. The
Yeah,
he's is Gunna in jail as well still.
no, but you know that Gunna got, he walked away from those charges,
Oh.
and then people were like speculating for the longest time that he like snitched. They were like, "Oh, he snitched," he's the reason why Young Thug's gonna do time, blah blah blah. But then the last thing that happened was the Young Thug like posted on his social media just like shouting him out. And I think he posted like a picture of them together.
Mm.
So seemingly, Young Thug is clearing his name in the streets so that people won't do to him what they have been doing to 6ix9ine.
Yeah.
I guess implying like, oh, he's not a snitch. Everything's cool between us or something along those lines.
Yeah. What's weird is that 6ix9ine, like, he came back. That was odd. I thought he was just gonna. He should probably just go away, man. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe move somewhere where people don't know who he is.
Yeah,
That's a
honestly, but how are we not gonna know who that guy is? His face is like full of tattoos,
yeah.
and his
No.
hair is rainbow colored.
Yeah. Well, I mean, got at least the hair you can at least get rid of easily.
Yeah, the hair you can get rid of. Yeah, that face is not going anywhere.
No, because I think he turned down witness protection. They said like we can get it done if he does it.
Yeah, yeah.
Which that doesn't surprise me. I mean, those dudes have been doing that for decades. Witness protection.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess he wanted to double down. He was like, "Nope, I'm gonna have my cake and eat it too. I'm gonna walk away from these charges. I'm gonna get out of jail, and I'm gonna go back to making music, and nothing's gonna happen to me." And it's like, well, maybe you wanted a little bit too much. And it's
Yeah.
interesting for him that it took a while for that to start happening to him. And I just kept like thinking to myself, I was like, oh, I guess like the streets are not talking. That was like my reaction to it.
Yeah.
'Cause everything that people kept saying when he was like snitching, I was like, well, they're gonna get him. They're gonna get him. And this whole time I was like, oh, it's taking a long time for him to get got, until they
Yeah.
got him, like like 2 months ago, and since then, just keep getting him.
Yeah. Well, what I'm kind of surprised he's only getting beat up. I mean, seems like
Yeah.
does he just have? No, he can't have security with him all the time because then he wouldn't be getting beat up at all. So that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. But they are seemingly just stopping at beating him up. I guess they're like fine with getting those charges because they're videotaping it. I think part of what they want is just to humiliate that guy.
Yeah.
I have no idea, man.
Because
But
what's
that
weird?
guy brought that upon himself.
Yeah. Because what's so weird about it is yeah, what's so weird about it to me is that he just hasn't had like a life or death situation, at least since everything initially went down. Because there is that video of I think the guy's name was Shoddy or something, like a shotgun Shoddy. Yeah, Kafano Shoddy Jordan. I think that's the video where he has a gun on 6ix9ine and he's telling him like, "Get the fuck out of the car," yada yada,
Oh yeah, I
and you can hear
remember that.
6ix9ine going
Yeah.
like, "Man, dude, stop! I'm scared. Stop!" You're just like, "Oh man, this guy was such a fake gangster the whole time, man."
Yeah, he's birthed some memes because he had that meme. You know what I'm talking about? He had that meme where like he was talking about how he was like in some kind of like gun altercation, and then he goes like he makes like a sound for the gun, and I go back to that clip like often when I want to like make myself laugh, and it's like just him at a podcast, and it's like him, the podcast host, and like another guy, and he's like describing this person coming up to him, and the sound that he makes for the gun is like haran haran, like some kind of sound like that. It's a sound that nobody has ever made for a gun. And then the guy, like the podcast host, like calls him on. He's like, "Dude, what was that sound?" Dude, hilarious clip.
That's so funny, man. I don't know if I know that. I don't know if I know that one. I could certainly picture it.
Yeah, I think there's a that I think I might have shown that to you before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to look it up. He 6ix9ine. I never his music's whatever. I never liked it too much, but I'll be honest. Like there's some songs, there's some like collabs that he's done, some songs that he's done where it's like I could they're not bad. I mean there's like that the song that initially blew up, Gummo. That's a pretty
Yeah.
fire song. That's a good one. I
Yeah.
like that one, man. And then he's got a song. You've probably heard me play it with 50 Cent. What's that song called? Get the Strap. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Those are like some of like his older songs, right?
Yeah, somewhat. And then I remember there were a couple off of the. It was the album that it was the one he released like right before all the shit hit the fan. I think the cover is like a CG version of him pissing or something, like pissing rainbows, something like that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But all his album covers were that. They were just like this like weird like emojis of himself.
Yeah, they're really dumb looking. Oh yeah, the album's called Dummy Boy. There were a couple off that I recall being all right. But I don't go back and listen to it. But you know what's funny, man, is the beginning of the end for him was the Chief Keef stuff. Like I'm looking at the Wikipedia right now, the Wikipedia page, the trial of the 9 Trey gangsters. There's literally a picture of Chief Keef in this article, and it's just talking about how, because it was so weird, the Chief Keef stuff, because Chief Keef was just like a bystander in all of it. Because 6ix9ine started beefing with Chief Keef's cousin, not Fredo. He would not. He'd be dead if Fredo were still alive. He wouldn't have come out of that walking, man. If Fredo was still around, he was lucky Fredo was gone. Rest in peace. But Fredo Santana. Anyone who out there who likes gangster rap, look him up. Chief Keef's cousin. He's sadly no longer with us, but he makes some great gangster rap. I love it. But anyway, he was beefing with one of Chief Keef's cousins, and then it was like over a girl, and then he was just like, "Well, I guess this gives me an excuse to start beef with Chief Keef." And then he sent guys to like shoot at Chief Keef outside of a hotel, and it was so weird. It was so dumb because the way the forensics people looked at the bullets, it was like they were obviously not even trying to hit him. It's like it was all just kind of clout chasing or whatever. But and then he kept like dropping disses to Chief Keef and his songs and stuff, and it was just like, dude, Chief Keef has done nothing to you.
It was a situation where like he just like never like took the bait.
Yeah, Chief Keef handled that really well. I mean, he just never. I don't think he ever even. I almost feel like I heard something about how he sent people to shoot at 6ix9ine or something like that, but I don't know if that's actually true because he never got prosecuted for it. So, there's obviously not enough evidence to say whether he did or not. I know that shortly after the hotel incident, I think 6ix9ine and 50 Cent were like doing a music video, and then some dudes pulled up and fired some shots. But, we can't say whether or not it was Chief Keef. The timing seems right, but, innocent till proven guilty, Yeah, Chief Keef was, he handled that, assuming he didn't send those guys over to the music video set to shoot. He handled that pretty maturely and was just, handled it like he handled it pretty well. He didn't go around. I remember some paparazzi guys like came up to him asking him about it, and he just kind of like shushed them. Like he was just like, shh, I don't want to talk about that, man. Like, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, like he literally put his I remember the video. He like put some TMZ guys came up to him about it, and he like put his finger up to his lips. He was like, no, I don't want to talk about that.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, because Chief Keef's probably tired of jail, man. He went, he was
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah,
in and out of
man.
jail at the beginning of his career. He was like going to jail all the time, like going to rehab all the time.
Doesn't he have? Is he like not allowed back in Illinois or something like that, or
Yeah,
like Chicago or something?
yep, not allowed back in Chicago, dude. He tried to do a hologram concert a few years back, and they shut it
They
down.
arrested the hologram.
Yeah, they shut it. They wouldn't even let him do the hologram. They shut down the hologram.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
They were like, nope. It's like halfway through Don't Like. They just shut it down. The
They're like,
cops.
no, none of this.
Because they see him as like a symbol. He was like a
That's pretty
huge.
funny.
He's just he was just too big of like a gangster kind of symbol over there.
Yeah. We're like, no, we gotta put a stop to this guy. He can't even be allowed to be here in image. It's funny because that makes me think of like that South Park episode that they made in reference to when they had when they made Tupac. Remember the Tupac hologram like fiasco?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there was an episode of South Park about that, and in which they were just like a bunch of celebrities that were holograms. Michael Jackson being one of them.
Michael Jackson, you said?
Yeah, yeah. Are you still watching South Park? Did you get to that episode?
No, is it a newer one?
It's like from back whenever that happened. Maybe like 2011, I think. Maybe
Okay.
2012. Whenever that hologram thing happened. That episode's particularly funny. That's a really funny episode.
I'll have to check that one out then. I don't think I've seen
I
that
was
one.
thinking about that episode today because I was like re-listening to the Fetty album, the one with Currency and Freddie Gibbs, The Alchemist.
Oh yeah.
He has a line there where he says something along the line of like, "So iconic, when I pass away, I'll be performing as a hologram," something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, he's talking about the Tupac thing."
I do know the episode where they do like Bloody Mary, but instead of Bloody Mary, it's like they summon Biggie.
Biggie Smalls.
And he comes out and he just shoots at everybody.
He just comes out shooting.
He's like, "Oh man, what the
He's
fuck?"
asking no questions.
That episode's great, man.
And like,
they're like, "Oh fuck, it's Biggie Smalls."
it's funny when they start. But it's funny when they have him like as a, because he wants to be like at the devil's birthday party, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's like enjoying himself at the devil's birthday party, and then I think it's like Butters that like summons him or something.
Yeah, it is.
And he's like, "What the?" That episode's hilarious, man. Those guys are truly just geniuses. How they made that show like so funny, so inventive with those silly gags.
Oh yeah, dude, they're so much fun. I've been watching the older South Parks lately. Not like all the way back to where it still looked like paper cutouts, like not that far.
Yeah.
But like season 6, like late single digit seasons.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about that. That's not like quite prime season. Like the prime seasons were like once it started to get into double digits. I think it was like 2007 to 2012, like that kind of era was like prime South Park. From what I understand, that's when they had like, all of that stuff, the World of Warcraft episode, Awesome-O, Casa Bonita.
Awesome-O.
Yeah. Awesome-O. Lame. But I kind of like the ones in the few seasons before that too. There's something about those seasons. They're very kind of low key. They're really. It was before they started getting like all hog wild with the kind of like what was going on, and before they started to bring in new characters. Because what happened in South Park, I feel like as they started to bring in new characters, trying to make them look like real life people, you'll notice like the faces and stuff are more detailed, and so they don't where like back in sort of the era that I'm talking about, everyone still kind of looked like, crudely drawn. They didn't actually, they didn't have that texture of paper cutouts, but everyone just looked like a South Park character,
Yeah,
Um,
and there's something to that, man. I think there's something to like when you watch like a show and it's like before they got like a bunch of money. You get what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like when it's just like a little bit rough around the edges, the animation's like a little bit, it's shaky. Like that's why I love this. Like I love watching like any great show in the first like few seasons.
yeah.
Like I remember when I watched like SpongeBob, when I watched like the first like 4 seasons of it, just for the sake of like rewatching it. Hilarious 4 seasons, by the way.
Oh yeah,
And it's one of those instances where like the voices are like slightly weirder, a little bit deeper, like it's like it's not polished. It's just like exists in this place of like greatness, where like it's just off kilter to
hmm
such an extent where it's just like really just like satisfying. And whenever they smooth those edges out in these shows, it kind of loses something.
yeah. I agree with that. Something
Yeah.
that happens. This happens in every single cartoon series, and it's that the voices always get higher pitched.
Yeah, they do. They always get higher pitched.
Always, every show, The Simpsons, Family Guy, South Park, SpongeBob. I mean everything, dude. Every cartoon. I mean, name any cartoon. I mean, even like if you go back to the first episode of South Park, Cartman's voice is all like, screw you, Kyle, and then you get to the new
Yeah,
seasons and
yeah,
he's like, I don't want to live no more, no more, no more.
yeah.
He's like, same with Peter, like the older episodes, he's like, Lois, and the newer episodes, he's like, I
Yeah.
can't, I don't have the energy to do these voices right now, but, um,
I know.
but the
But he
lowest,
does them great. I can advertise that. If
yeah,
there if for whatever reason, what's his name? Seth MacFarlane could be listening to this,
yeah.
and he's like, I'm tired of doing these voices. You can cast.
Yeah, people at my last job, people in the office were always, they were like, Jake, do Stewie, do Stewie. I would just like, I'd be sitting at my computer typing and I'd just hear, Jake, do Stewie. And I'd be like, Brian, where are the graham crackers? But I don't see them. Can't you just come in here? But yeah, the woman who plays I forget her name, but the actress that plays Lois Griffin in Family Guy even talked about that in an interview where she was like, when I started out, the voice was a lot deeper and then it just got higher. I don't know why that is, but I bet there's like an article about that or something out there.
There's something to that. There's something to that, man, because it just happens with every show.
It does. Yeah,
It just happens
absolutely.
with every show. And at some point it gets like a little bit like grating. Like I remember I went back to like watch like an episode of Rick and Morty, like one of the newer episodes,
Yeah,
and
that's
I was
another
like,
example.
yeah, and I was like, what happened? Like somehow like I'm just not. And to me, Justin Roiland just had the funniest voice in the universe
Yeah.
because he was like my favorite. He was my favorite. He was actually one of, because I had a lot of favorite ones, but he was one of my favorite voices in Adventure Time,
Oh yeah.
where he did Earl Lemongrab, which is my favorite character in that show. Him just screaming, and that was like the best. I remember the first time, because I watched Adventure Time when we were in college. And I remember the first time that character was introduced, I could not believe it. I was like, "This exists."
That's the guy that goes
There's some character that like screams.
unacceptable, right?
Yeah, unacceptable. Yeah. Ooh, man, great character. And Justin Roiland like had an interview where he just talked about how like doing that voice was like horrible for him, and it gave him like horrible just like migraines. But I was like, dude, if there was ever a necessary sacrifice, it was the sacrifice that men made for that performance, because that's great. You should
Oh
have won on
yeah.
board for that.
Dude, you're right about Rick and Morty too, because early on, and if you watch the pilot episode of Rick and Morty, Rick's all like, "Morty, we gotta get to the bad Morty." And, now in the new
Yeah,
seasons, it's just
yeah.
like the Rick we know, where it's like, "Man, Morty, man, Morty."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like something. It's like these voice actors. They just arrive at a place where they're like, okay, if this is a job that I have to fight for, if this is just gonna be here long term, then I have to find like a comfort zone to be able to do this voice just well enough to execute, and not to damage my vocal cords.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Hang on, real quick. I'm moving my equipment a little bit slightly here.
yeah,
Just getting more
because
comfortable.
you know that in
Excuse
those
me,
early,
folks.
in those early Rick and Morty seasons, for us, for Justin Roiland, it was just probably just like, oh, this might be the only season that we do of the show,
Yeah.
because they got greenlit for one season, and obviously they went ham. And when they got greenlit for season two, they didn't have any like promises. It was just season two. You guys got ready for another season.
Yeah.
I feel like they just put everything into that show, including unhealthy practices. Because obviously, from what I understand, a lot of episodes, like Justin Roiland was just like improvising and like drinking in the booth and like just spitballing stuff. Like for those like
Yeah, I've
what
seen
is
the
it,
videos.
interdimensional cable episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like but that when they tell you like, oh, this is gonna now this is renewed for like 80 episodes, and you're like, oh shit, I can't keep doing that. I can't, I'm gonna, this is like really bad. I
Yeah.
could do it before where it was just like, oh, we got renewed for another season, but this might be the first and last or whatever. Like I feel like people can get through those humps. But then when they tell you like you just gotta be doing this is your 9 to 5 every day, you're just like, oh, I can't be like, I can't be doing this. I can't be
Yeah.
killing myself for this. Yeah.
Yeah, because the video I
Every
saw
single
was
day.
him. He was like taking shots in the studio, and they were like, "Oh my god, Justin, that's like your 9th one," and he's like, "No, I'm doing it." And he
Yeah.
would just like keep taking
Yeah,
shots.
exactly.
Dude,
Yeah.
the interdimensional cable episodes, like we really forget because, I mean, for me, Rick and Morty fell off. Just fell off in terms of quality. Like I really couldn't stand like the newer episodes.
Yeah.
I really couldn't. Like the episode where I realized like I don't like this show anymore was the copies episode where they had all the clones or whatever.
Yeah.
It was like copies of copies of copies. I was like, oh fuck, enough. This
That
is
one
so
was too
annoying.
much. Yeah.
That was the moment because I had that show was like on thin ice, and that was just was the one that broke it, man. Like I was like, man, I can't watch this show anymore. Which is sad because that show really was fire, man. I mean, the interdimensional cable, that was freaking genius.
Dude, for my money, I'm willing to say that in terms of like cartoons, like American cartoons, I am willing to say, American animated shows. Just let me just put it that way instead of saying cartoons. Cartoons just always feels like such like a derivative thing to say. But in terms of American, animated TV series, I am willing to say that the first 2 seasons of that show are the greatest ones. The greatest ones, like over any first 2 seasons of any show, any animated show I've ever seen.
Yeah,
those are the 2 best ones, the 2 best seasons by far.
Yeah, that's hard to argue because even some of the best animated shows were still finding their footing in the first season.
Exactly.
Like, dude, am I going back and watching the first season of South Park? Hell no. First season of Family Guy? Not really.
No.
I like seasons 2.
The Simpsons?
Yeah, I like seasons 2 and 3 of Family Guy, actually, like before they got canceled or whatever. Those are actually pretty good.
I've seen those, as you know. Yeah.
Yeah. How many? There were 3 or 4 seasons before they got canceled. I think it was 3.
Family Guy? I think it was like 3. It's literally between 3 and 4. I'm not sure what the number is, though.
Pretty sure it was 3. The Simpsons, I actually own The Simpsons season 1 on DVD, and that was like one of my favorite possessions when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It was just so interesting to see like this show, kind of come to life. You could tell there was just something about it that I really liked. I liked the sort of unfinished quality of it, how the voices just sounded. I don't know. When I was a kid, I really just fell in love with, like when I was a kid, I would go through. There were a few phases that I would go through when I was a kid that I would like cycle through. There'd be times as a kid where I was just obsessed with monster movies and horror movies and stuff. Godzilla, The Mummy, like, werewolf movies, vampire movies, like, just monster movies, horror, all that shit. And then there were other times that was a cycle that came in and out, like a rotation. And on the other side of the rotation was animation. Like there were times as a kid where I would just become obsessed with like cartoons. I would draw cartoons. I mean, dude, I still have sketchbooks to this day that are just filled with all these just different cartoon characters that I made when I was a kid. Like, made my own comic strips, all that shit, man. I would just dork out, geek out over cartoons, man. And when I was a kid, I loved having that first season of The Simpsons. There was just something about it where, you know, you're watching it, and I loved like what you were saying, where it's just the voices sound different, the animation has like sort of that low budget kind of feel where the backgrounds are really simple and the characters kind of have like weird movements and stuff because they didn't have all the money in the world at that time, you know, and some of the characters aren't fleshed out either, so they're behaving in ways that they might not later on. It's interesting to watch shows find their footing, you know, and I loved that about that first season of The Simpsons. So I can't really say I wouldn't go back and watch the first season of The Simpsons, because there's something about that first season of The Simpsons that I really just love, man. Just seeing that show come into its own was always really interesting. And there were some fire episodes of the first season of The Simpsons. It was funny. I had to laugh because there was an episode of that episode of South Park called The Simpsons Did It. Remember that episode?
Yeah, that's right.
And it's that episode where Butters has all these evil plans, and each one is like, no, The Simpsons did that already. And there's one where he's like, I'll cut the head off of this statue, and they're like, no, that's an episode in the first season of The Simpsons. That's a great episode, dude. Simpsons season 1, I think it's called The Telltale Head, and it's this episode where Bart, he's trying to fit in like with these older kind of delinquent kids, and they're like, man, I do wish someone would cut off the head of that stupid statue or whatever.
Yeah,
and
that statue that it's like near like the municipal hall or whatever.
Yeah, and then that night to fit in, like Bart chops off the head, and the next day he's gonna show the bullies, and they're just like, "Oh man, I wish we could meet that kid and smash his stupid face in." And Bart's like, "Wait, I thought you guys said you'd think it was really cool," and they were like, that was just cloud talk, man. We were just looking at the clouds, That's just cloud talk.
That's cloud talk.
And then the whole episode is just Bart dealing with like the guilt and people wondering if people are going to find out that he beheaded the statue of of the founder of Springfield. So funny, man. That's a great one. That's a good one. But
I love The Simpsons growing up. I think you and I had a similar experience with that, where like that The Simpsons was like a show that my mom didn't like us watching when we were kids.
Oh, really?
Because it has like a little bit of a crude humor,
Yeah.
But we loved watching that show. That was like the best show, as a kid. When The Simpsons would come up, with that little theme song, oof.
Oh, yeah.
Loved that, man. Yeah. I still do, because I get nostalgic for it in Spanish, because I grew up watching it in Spanish. So I get like really nostalgic for it. To this day. Like if I go home and it goes on the TV, I have to watch it. You have to sit down and watch it, because I won't watch it in English because I don't have that like relationship to it.
Yeah.
But in Spanish, I will watch The Simpsons. I love it. I remember all the jokes, all the things.
Yeah, man, it was fun. I still have some animated shows that I want to circle back to that I've never seen. I'm looking at like a list of the best animated shows of all time. I have never seen The Boondocks.
I've seen parts of The Boondocks. I think my brother actually has seen like most of it. Shout out to my brother, who's a listener of this podcast. If you're listening to this, leave a comment, leave a like, and subscribe to the channel.
Shout out Edzilla.
Yeah, but I think he's watched most of The Boondocks. I know he really likes that show.
Yeah, I got to check out The Boondocks. I've never seen that. Taking a look here at the list. I've never seen King of the Hill. I've
seen some of King of the Hill, because King of the Hill is weird, because King of the Hill is like doesn't have like that same kind of appeal that The Simpsons had. Because King of the Hill is just a little bit more dry. And I say this because, again, growing up, would be that they would play The Simpsons and King of the Hill like back to back. Whenever King of the Hill would come up, I'll be like, I'm done watching TV. So whenever The Simpsons come back around in half an hour, I'll watch The Simpsons. I could never get into King of the Hill because, like, as a kid, it was just like so dry, you know. But knowing just how funny Mike Judge is, I too want to give that show a shot.
Yeah. Yeah, because Mike Judge is the shit, man. Office Space, just
Yeah.
Office Space alone. I mean, he's awesome, dude. So here, this is. I'm just looking at through. These are some of the animated. I want to hear your animation, quote unquote, to do list, like to watch. These are some of mine, just from looking at a list of top animated shows. I gotta watch the
Mhm.
Boondocks. I still need to watch King of the Hill. I do want to. I want to check out Adventure Time. I never got into Adventure
Adventure Time
Time.
is great. I've seen all of Adventure Time.
I need to get into it because you know me. I love Regular Show. Like that Regular Show was
Yeah.
my shit. That was sort of like that was almost kind of a cousin to Adventure Time. I feel like I always
Yeah.
felt like
They were
those
airing at
shows.
the same time.
Yeah, they came around at
Yeah.
the same time. They were both kind of popular with the same sort of audiences. I felt like they're very different shows, but
Mhm.
obviously, I'm a Regular Show nut. I have I have like a big book of the art of Regular Show in my room.
Mhm.
Um, I need to watch. I'm looking through the list here. I need to watch Beavis and Butthead. That's another Mike Judge one. I
Mhm.
haven't really seen Beavis and Butthead.
That's where I've only seen a couple of episodes. I
Yeah.
also should probably check out that show.
Yeah, yeah. What else was
Mhm.
on here? There were some other ones that I was meaning to check out. Oh, Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I've always kind of wanted to check that. A couple episodes of
Space
that.
Coast, Coast, Coast.
I know
I
that
think
was
I've only
like
seen
Eric
one episode of that
Andre.
show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was like Eric Andre's big
yeah,
influence, I think.
yeah.
But what else? What else is here? Yeah, that's pretty much what's catching my eye here. But
Yeah.
and as for just from this list from animated shows that I love that I would recommend to people, it's tough if you didn't grow up on them too, because it's just like a lot of
Yeah.
these you grew up on them. They might not have the same appeal if you go into them kind of like cold as an adult. But
Yeah.
unless you have a real appreciation for animation, like we do, we have an excuse because we're we're school graduates, so we could watch
Yeah.
cartoons. No, I'm just
We
kidding.
can watch cartoons. We don't
Yeah.
need no kids.
Nah, don't listen to anyone that tells you not to watch cartoons, man. Cartoons are great.
Yeah.
But nah, man, I loved like just taking a look at this. Man, Batman the animated series was the shit.
Yeah.
What else from this list? Regular Show. God, I love Regular Show. I'll still put on Regular Show sometimes, just like, man, just cheers you up. Cowboy Bebop. I love Cowboy Bebop.
Mm.
Freaking, let me see what else is on here on this list. I like Archer. Archer's fun.
Generator Rex, dude. I recommend that to everybody.
Oh yeah, dude, Generator Rex was great, man. I liked that when I was a
Generator
kid.
Rex was amazing.
Dude,
Like,
it was
I love that show. Dude.
yeah, man. It was awesome.
Love that show. It was so imaginative. Just so like when I was a kid, like when I watched Generator Rex, I just thought that it was like the most like imaginative show. I
Yeah,
was like, this is such a great idea for a kids show. I loved it, dude.
yeah, yeah. Because I was a huge Ben 10 fan when I was a kid. I loved Ben 10,
Mm.
and then the Ben
So
10
was
Alien
I. Yeah.
Force.
I had a video game for it too.
I did too. Yeah, those were fun
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Turning into the aliens
Yeah.
and stuff.
Getting
That was-
into the aliens, dude. Yeah, that was great. I love those. I love those video games. I love the show. I watched like all of the as you know, and I think you did the same too. I watched all of like the original one and the teenage one and the movies. I just like watched like all this Ben 10 shit, man.
Oh yeah,
Ben 10 was the shit. It was another one of those like this is such a great thing because they just like taps like those shows were so good at like tapping into kids' imagination
yeah,
and just being like, yes, kids. Every kid wishes they had a watch that they could tap and that would turn them into like a superhero. Every kid, you know.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What Ben 10 got right too. There's something about Ben 10's sort of powers that because he has this. It was like they're quote unquote powers, but they're not really powers. It's more like this device that has this biomechanical connection to him that can alter his DNA or whatever to turn him into an alien. And there was something
Mm.
about that where it was like when you watched him do that and watched him in these situations, it's like it was just there was something about that where it's almost like when you're a kid, right? And it's like, oh, I'm just a regular kid, but if I put on this Superman cape, I'm Superman. It kind of tapped into that, but with aliens instead of a Superman cape, where it was like, okay, he's just a helpless, like ignorant 10-year-old, but then bam, he can turn into forearms and just like wreck shit, or heat blast and set shit on fire, all that shit. It was great, man.
Yeah.
But I agree, Generator Rex was awesome too, because that was by the same creators, the Man of Action Studios, and Generator Rex was awesome, man. That was super underrated.
It was awesome.
Had a great villain too. I still remember his name, Van Kleiss, and they had those three. He had those three goons that were with him all the time. It was like that four-armed, creepy, like grudge girl. And then there was that like big lizard-looking thing, and then that werewolf thing that followed him around. They were great villains, man. They were scary. Yeah, Generator Rex was great, man.
It was great, dude. It was great. If there's anything anybody should leave from here as me making recommendations for animated shows, Generator Rex, check that shit out. Just that and like Adventure Time. For me, it's like, oh, those are such great shows.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, check them out, man. Yeah, and I did like, as a kid, like elementary school, I did like, I was a Cartoon Network kid, man, so everything we're talking about now was on Cartoon Network. But I also I loved Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. That was a good one. I liked Phineas and Ferb. That was a good one, too. That just popped up on here.
It was good. It was good for a while, that show.
It was fun, man. Disney Channel came through with a good cartoon.
It did. It did. With that one. It came through with that one. I actually really liked watching that show. It was like always so entertaining.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I loved we had did you have Boomerang when you were a kid, that station?
It did, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Boomerang was great because they played all the old stuff.
Oh yeah, exactly, dude. I watched so much old shit through that because that's how I watched like Dexter's Laboratory. Mm-hmm. That's how I watched Johnny Bravo. That's how I watched the Jetsons. Just like a bunch of shows.
Flintstones,
Powerpuff Girls. I watched them on Boomerang.
Yeah. What else? Yeah, Did I say
Pinky
Flintstones?
and the Brain. Yeah, the Flintstones. Yeah,
Scooby-Doo.
Ed and Eddie, dude. Yeah, loved all those shows, man.
Yep.
But
Looney Tunes.
One show that I know,
Looney Tunes.
One show that I know you haven't seen. One show that I know you haven't seen. That I think I've recommended this to you over the years. I think this is your version, my version of Hannibal for you. And it is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh yeah, man. Fuck. Yeah, that's terrible.
Dude, I've seen Avatar: The Last Airbender 10 times. I love Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, dude, you know what just popped up on here? Fucking Super Jail.
Oh yeah,
dude, Super Jail's the best thing. Probably one of the best things you've recommended to me. Like Super Jail's awesome, man.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because I recommended you that. Because I know that you didn't get into China, Illinois, which is another one that I swear by. Another one that my brother introduced me to. My brother introduced me to China, Illinois, and Super Jail. So shouts out to him. My brother has great taste on animated shows because he's introduced me to a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But China, Illinois, to me, it's a one of those 9 out of 10s. If you have that humor, if you can follow that show, it's the greatest show ever made. I love it. And you know that I've quoted so many jokes from that. And the Super Jail is just the most deranged show ever. Great animation, super funny, incredibly just deranged, just off kilter, unhinged show. But it's great.
So for those listening, Super Jail was on Adult Swim for 4 seasons, according to this. Dude, it's on HBO Max too. HBO Max came through with the cartoons. They have all the Cartoon Network, Warner Brothers stuff. Dude, they have all the Godzilla movies on HBO Max too. Dude, HBO Max has been treating me right. But Super
Yeah.
Jail, Super Jail is about this like basically mega prison, and it's super cartoonish. Like the creator said he was really inspired by Looney Tunes, and he listed out all the inspirations for the show, and it was like a list of 20 different cartoons and cartoonists and animators. But he cited like all of the classic cartoons as influences on Super Jail, and but it's like super violent, and each episode is what the warden just comes up with a new kind of like torture, not exactly torture, but like just torment for the prisoners.
Yeah.
Like he's like, oh, this
Either
episode
torment or
I'm
just,
gonna
like,
release
gimmick. Yeah.
Yeah, gimmicks, exactly. It's like, oh, in this episode, I'm going to release hordes of like hornets into the prison, and then,
Yeah.
but then there's like
And the
those
warden is
twins
just like,
that foil
yeah, and
all of it.
Exactly, yeah, and he's just like this weird character where he's just like the Willy Wonka guy
Yeah,
that is just like so full of just like this weird enthusiasm, and none of what he does comes like he doesn't express anything of what he does as it being like in any way, shape, or form wrong or immoral or anything. He's,
he's like
this
a
is what we're doing
complete
today.
psycho.
Yeah. Yeah, he is completely. Yeah. Great
man.
show, dude. I'm looking at like other like old Disney ones. American Dragon, Jake Long, loved that show.
I didn't see too much of that.
Recess,
Oh,
really,
Recess was
I love
great.
that. I loved American Dragon. Yeah, and Recess was great. I loved Recess. Like all these shows, man, so nostalgic. You know what we should do? We should quit our jobs.
I just watch
And
cartoons
we should
and
just
smoke pot.
we should just watch cartoons all day, dude. We should watch cartoons and eat Fruit Loops.
Dude, that's the thing though. Sometimes I'll do that. Like if it's if I feel like, oh, I've been working hard, I've been doing well, I've been adulting, Sometimes, man, I'll
Yeah.
wake up on a Saturday, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna grab a big bowl of freaking cereal and watch cartoons like a dumbass.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it, man.
That's,
You gotta
that's what
treat
we make it,
yourself.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Absolutely.
You gotta treat
Absolutely.
yourself. I'm taking a look
I'm
here,
with
dude. You know what else was the shit? The Pink Panther show. That was the
Oh, the
shit.
Pink Panther. Absolutely. Yeah.
Pink
Absolutely.
Panther. So much
Absolutely.
fun, man. The Pink Panther
Yeah.
was good because it was like there was something just so low key about it. They just had that song playing through every
Dun-dun,
episode.
dun-dun, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was so
I love
low
the Pink
key.
Panther.
It just there was
Yeah.
something weird about it where you felt like you were. I don't know. When I was watching Pink Panther, I just felt like almost like I was watching a Picasso painting come to life. There was just something really like psychedelic about that show that I liked.
Yeah, it was. I think that's a good word to describe it. It was like minimalistic and psychedelic,
Yeah,
It really was.
and really
Every episode was just like 10 minutes.
exactly. Really underrated too was they had that because old animation shows they were all like you said 10 minutes, so they would have like 10 minutes one episode and then 10 minutes at the end, but in the middle there'd be a block for another show, which leads me to The Ant and the Aardvark. Did you ever see that one?
Yeah, the end of the Aardvark. Yeah, that's
That
how
was
I
like
also got
the middle
introduced-
block of Pink Panther.
Yeah, it was that. It was either that or it would like alternate with like Spy versus Spy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I got introduced to all those shows.
Yeah. Ant and the Aardvark was
Yeah.
great, man.
Yeah.
The ant was a Dean Martin impression, and then the Aardvark was a Jackie Mason impression, I think.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
like that's what the voice actors actually said. It might have even been the same guy. I could be wrong on that, but
Doing like the voices.
yeah. But he said like for the ant he was doing a Dean Martin impression, and then the Aardvark he was doing a Jackie Mason impression.
Yeah.
Okay, I got an obscure one for you.
Mhm.
The Secret Saturdays. Did you ever see
Let
that
me
one?
look that up. I have to look it up because I don't know if I saw it because it might have been named something else in Spanish.
It was a
Let me
family
see.
of cryptozoologists. So like they would hunt like different, cryptids.
This looks familiar, but I don't think I've seen this. Yeah, I don't think I've seen the Secret Saturdays. It looks like it looked like this is how I might have seen like an image of it before. It looks like they had like a crossover with with Ben 10 at some point.
Oh, I think they did. Yeah,
Yeah,
believe they did.
yeah. But it also reminds me of Danny Phantom, which I also really liked as a kid.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't see too much of Danny Phantom as a kid.
Oh, dude, I love Danny Phantom. Danny Phantom was great. It was great. All these shows are great, man. I don't remember like any of these shows negatively. Maybe Bieber versus Bieber, whatever that show called, Angry Beavers. I didn't like that show. And I saw as a kid I saw Angry Beavers like way more than I probably like would like to admit. Like as a kid, I was just like, as a kid, I just like loved watching like cartoons, and sometimes I would just put up with like whatever the next show was. I loved watching Hey Arnold.
Yeah.
Sometimes it would be like, oh, in between Hey Arnold is gonna be Angry Beaver or Cat Dog. Cat Dog I had a more positive relationship with, but Angry Beaver I don't like Angry Beaver at all. But I've seen a lot of that show.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I never saw that one.
Angry Beavers, yeah, dude. I've seen too many of these little like cartoons. Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
They were
Yeah.
great.
Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, what were some of your favorites, dude?
Oh, dude. I mean, like I told you, Generator Rex, Ben 10, Hey Arnold, SpongeBob. When I got a little bit older, I saw these other ones. Adventure Time was one of the big ones. Where I was like, oh, I love Adventure Time. Again, Avatar: The Last Airbender. All of these are my favorites. I loved all these shows. I
Yeah.
could sit down and watch any episode from these shows right now.
Oh
Loved
yeah.
all of them. And I think Hey Arnold and like Avatar and Adventure Time, I think all of those like hold up like really well to like rewatching them like now as an adult, because
Yeah.
I might put on like Generator Rex right now and be like, oh geez, I wish I hadn't seen that. That could happen with me with like Spirit the Stallion or whatever. Where when I was a kid, I loved Spirit, loved that movie so much. It was my favorite movie, and then I saw it again as an adult, and I was like, oof, it was one of those moments, but. I'm afraid. I'm afraid with some of those shows that I might rewatch them and be like, "Oh man, I wish I hadn't seen that again." It just lived with the memory. But I know, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I know that show holds up. Adventure Time. I know that holds up. I know all of these shows are great.
I'm so overdue on The Last Airbender. It's not even funny.
Yeah,
That's so
it's
bad
great,
that I
dude.
haven't seen that. It's like a writer.
Yeah,
It's like one of the crown jewels of writing
yeah,
out there. Writers talk about that show all the time.
it's great. It's on Netflix. It's right there for you when you're ready.
Yeah, I really need to just
Yeah.
I gotta shift gears, Edward.
Yeah, good Jake.
Um,
Dude, you gotta shift gears.
I just got this picture you sent me. Will Smith
Oh,
working at McDonald's. That's an AI photo.
Today I had sent that to my brother and I couldn't remember for the longest time. I think like days ago I was like, did I send that to Jake? And then I was like, maybe I did. And then like now in the podcast I was like, there's no way I sent this to him, so I sent it to you.
That's so
And it's
funny,
funny
dude.
because he looks like he has like a weird expression on his face.
Yeah, he does. He looks like he like shit his pants while he's making the while he's making the fries.
Let me look it
Oh
up.
God.
Yeah, he has like this weird face, man. Like he's like something bad, both something bad happened to him, but also that he like is ashamed to be seen working at McDonald's.
That's
It's like a
perfect.
mixture of both of those things.
This AI art's getting
Oh
better. This
man,
looks like an actual photo.
it is. It looks like legitimately a photo of him.
Especially when you look into the background, because that's the other stuff's not as in focus. I mean, it just looks like although the girl all the way at the back kind of looks like the AI might have messed up her face or something. I don't know if I'm just looking at it wrong, but
Yeah.
it looks weird. But anyway, the point is, I'm nitpicking that is stellar work. That's so funny, dude.
Oh man, how funny! Yeah,
I have
yeah,
I have a couple topics that can move us into, but I want to give you a
yeah. Go
shot here.
ahead.
Do you have any topics, or do you want me to move us into something?
Nah, you take it. I have like a topic, but maybe let's see if we tackle it smoothly today. If not, we can just move it to next week.
Okay, sounds good. So moving out of the cartoon topic, which by the way, I'm glad we talked about that. I feel like we don't talk
Yeah.
about animation a lot on this podcast, but
Yeah, no, I'm glad we did. Yeah, I'm glad we gave all those shows a shout out.
I love revisiting childhood, man. You know what's
Yeah.
weird, because I just thought of how, our generation revisits our childhood a lot, but I mean, so does every generation. And
Yeah.
you know what was interesting when I was a kid? I remember my parents sometimes showing me things that, like, TV shows that they watched as kids. And one of the best was my mom showing me Land of the Lost. Have you ever heard of that with
Hmm.
like the slee stacks and the dinosaurs and stuff? It was, dude,
No.
you got to look it up, man. They made a movie out of it with Will Ferrell. Um, but like the storylines and stuff were actually really creative. I mean, it dealt with like time travel paradoxes and
Huh.
really hardcore. I think the creator of the show actually wrote some of the original Star Trek episodes.
Yeah.
So there was that pedigree on there,
Hmm.
but that was a fun
Interesting.
one, man. Land of the Lost, that was
Yeah.
fun. But anyway,
not as good as not as good as Hey Arnold.
yeah. I don't think I saw too much of Hey Arnold. I know what it is, but I don't think I watched any of
That's
that really.
great. That was also a great show. Yeah.
I love how too, like, one of those memes where it'll show the location, like no characters, just a location from the show, and it's like, oh, real ones know what this is, and you're like, yes, I know where that is.
Mhm.
It'll be like the Simpsons couch, or like, Hey Arnold's room, or Ed and Eddie's
Yeah.
cul-de-sac, or whatever. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but something caught my eye this past week, Edward. Did you know? I didn't know this, but this came out somewhat recently, or was made fun of somewhat recently. Ben Shapiro is a failed screenwriter. Did you know that?
He's a what?
A failed screenwriter. He tried to write screenplays.
What? Really?
Yeah. And then right when he when
Really?
when he started failing at it, he wrote a book called about he wrote a book, what was it called? He wrote a book basically about Hollywood liberal propaganda or whatever.
Yeah.
Um what was it called? What was it called? What was it called? Ben Shapiro books. Da, da, da. Primetime propaganda: the true Hollywood story of how the left took over. Fuck, those words are small. Dude, titles of books are so fucking long.
It's too long.
Of
Yeah,
nonfiction
but
books.
basically, he's like blaming them and not himself.
Yeah, there's like a video, and I watched some of it. If you look up on YouTube Ben Shapiro primetime propaganda,
Yeah.
there'll come up a video of him sitting across from a lady in a blue sweater, and they're in like a library, and she's interviewing him. I watched part of it, and it's
Mm.
really cringeworthy how he talks about like the whole thing. You realize the whole thing is just him rationalizing why he was not allowed to be like a to become a screenwriter, and he's
Mm.
talking about how like,
Oh, well, the thing about Hollywood, right, is you have some folks that are, just very, very liberal, very left leaning, and they want to keep us conservatives out.
Yeah.
it's so funny, man, because he's sitting there
Like,
just
oh, it's not because you're a bad screenwriter.
yeah, it's
It
really
doesn't have
sad to
anything to do
watch.
with that.
He's just rationalizing it.
That's funny.
But it's
Oh
like,
man.
but
Okay.
also on the other side of that, it's like if that is true, then it's equally hilarious and makes him out to be a dumbass, because it's like, dude, keep your mouth shut in that case. Just don't talk about
Yeah.
politics with people.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I don't think that guy can help that.
no, no, not at this
I
point.
can help himself.
Yeah, he seems
That
like the
guy's a real
type.
Saul Goodman.
Oh yeah, so you know that episode of Rick and Morty where they go to the lighthouse and the guy makes Morty listen
Yeah.
to his script. Um,
Yeah.
and like, for those who haven't seen this episode, this guy basically is like, okay, I'll let you guys set up this beacon if this guy Morty listens to my story. And he just reads him a whole screenplay, playing all the characters and everything,
Yeah.
and it's torture. And the funny part is, like, at the end, he's putting everything out there like really obviously and on the nose.
Yeah.
So like characters in
Yeah.
screenplays have wants and needs and stuff like that. They're like have a want and a need that are competing. And so like when he's reading his story aloud, he's like, "Oh, need or want sounds like spoken like someone with needs." You know, like it's just like really on the nose. And I feel like
Yeah.
that was probably though. I swear to God, those were probably Ben Shapiro's scripts. But in terms of
Yeah.
like politics, where it was like really
Yeah.
obvious, like conservative versus liberal type
Yeah.
shit that were like really fucking
Yeah.
on the nose. I guarantee that
Yeah.
that's what his stories were like.
Yeah.
I want to read one.
Okay. So now I can see like what drove him to like have like his own network, because he's like produced movies.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah.
Any of them? I mean, have any of them even been like in the mainstream or anything? Because I did hear
I
about
think
that.
there was one that had like somewhat positive reviews. I remember.
Really?
I remember like seeing something along those lines.
Ben Shapiro movie production company. The Daily Wire. Dude, there's a guy, shout out on YouTube to what's his name? Rationality Rules. Who he actually, dude, he posted a damning video the other day. Because I guess Dennis Prager, I don't know if you know who that is.
Mm-mm.
But he's a dipshit, political pundit guy. I think there's dumb political pundits on both sides. I think people who make a living out of talking politics have sort of screwed themselves over, because it's hard if you make a living out of talking politics, it's hard for you to stay intellectually honest, because it's now your bread and butter. So you have to pick a horse and ride it, you know? So unless you're like Bill Maher, where you've established yourself as someone who's sort of like left of center and you can jump around and be moderate and blast liberals and Democrats, it's hard to, once you've picked a horse, to be like, oh, well, I'm starting to actually be a little more liberal at this point in my life, or, or whatever.
Because then you lose your audience and you lose your living.
Exactly. So I think you kind of shoot yourself in the foot a little bit. But anyway, Dennis Prager, he's a dumbass, conservative talk show host, just complete ignoramus. But I guess he works for the Daily Wire now. I guess Prager University didn't work out. That was his YouTube channel. Fucking ridiculous YouTube channel. But this video, Rationality Rules, it's called, I'll say the name of it in a second once I find it. But basically in this video, it's called "The Daily Wire is Lying to You. Here's Proof." So in this video, Dennis Prager's basically talking about religiosity and how it correlates with happiness in populations, and he's basically saying, religion's a good thing because of X, Y, and Z. And basically in the video, he's showing screenshots of peer-reviewed articles, and then he'll like cut to zoomed in, like focusing in on a single paragraph from the peer-reviewed articles. Long story short, Rationality Rules YouTube channel demonstrated that he was actually taking paragraphs from different peer-reviewed articles and splicing them together to look like they were part of the same study. Which is like incredibly fucking dishonest. Right. But I can't remember where I was going with that, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. You really got to fucking like vet your information these days. Holy shit, man. So,
because everybody's just like presenting information in the way that's like most convenient, Yeah. It's like that I remember that I like mentioned to you like a video by a YouTuber called Mr. Beat. And he just talks about like logical fallacies.
Oh yeah.
And he talks about like all the logical fallacies that Rogan and Shapiro in that like episode they had together. Just like the episode is just full of them just using logical fallacies.
Yeah.
Time and time again and time again. And the one that Ben Shapiro was like the most guilty of was just misrepresenting like the other person's like point.
Straw man.
That guy's like super guilty of just like straw manning people.
Yeah. Straw man is probably the
So
most overused fallacy. It's really easy to
yeah,
use too. I mean, we're all guilty. I
yeah.
think
So
we're
the
all
fact that that
guilty of
guy,
it from time to time.
oh, absolutely. But the fact that that guy was like so like blatantly just misrepresenting all of the arguments from everything. It was
Yeah.
like, dude, get out of here, man. How can anybody take you seriously?
Yeah. Yeah, because straw manning's easy because basically, it's exactly what it sounds like. You're setting up a straw man and then shooting at it, attacking it. It just makes it's an easy target because then people are
Yeah.
like, "Whoa, well, of course that's a stupid argument," and it's like, yeah, well,
Right.
that's
Exactly.
not what they're saying at all,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's it's a really easy fallacy to commit yourself to. It's a really easy fallacy to use for sure. We're all guilty of it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I certainly try, I try to avoid it. Absolutely. But yeah, I thought that was interesting, man. Ben Shapiro is a failed screenwriter. That's really sad. That's like a really sad rationalization, man.
Yeah.
It's like he built a whole
So
career.
yeah, now I'm gonna write a whole book about this.
Dude, that's a
Cheated.
supervillain origin story. It's like, oh, he was a failed screenwriter, so then he started he swore revenge on Hollywood.
Yeah.
That's a fucking super dude. That's a Doctor Doom story right there.
He's like, I'm gonna take them down.
Oh man, that's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
Something else that caught my eye, man. Moving away from that. So apparently WWE brought back this is a few weeks old. This is like somewhat old news, but WWE brought back the World Heavyweight Championship.
What is that about? What is going on?
I don't know. I mean, because they had the World Heavyweight Championship for a while there, and then they unified the titles.
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
Because
Yeah.
they've been swapping back and forth. Because it's like over the years they've had SmackDown and Raw, right? And they have a title that's Raw based and a title that's like SmackDown based. But then over the years, sometimes they'll like combine the two shows. So it's like, oh well, everyone who's on Raw is on SmackDown, and everyone who's on SmackDown is on Raw, which was always a little
Yeah.
weird because it was just like
It is a little weird. Yeah.
because that was always something about that was fun. The whole like SmackDown and Raw thing. Especially when you had the WWE draft, because then you were like, oh shit, this person got drafted to SmackDown, so now they might cross paths with The Undertaker, or whatever.
Yeah. That was great. I love those drafts.
Yeah, because you didn't know. It was almost like Game of Thrones a little bit, where everything felt kind of separate, It was like you were getting two shows for the price of one. But then like once in a while, they'd do a super show. So it's like, oh, SmackDown's invading Raw or whatever. Or this person from Raw is on SmackDown for one night, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently they're bringing back the World Heavyweight Championship.
Does that mean that the WWE Championship is just going to be the WWE Championship?
I guess so, because they had like the Universal Championship.
Yeah.
That was kind of
That
weird.
shit got too confusing, man. Because I jumped when I stopped watching the show, it was still just SmackDown and Raw.
Yeah.
And it was still just like, has the WWE Championship and SmackDown has the World Heavyweight one.
Yeah.
When I stopped watching the show, it was still like that, So when I looked at it again and I saw there was like a whole different title and that it was like a Universal Champion or whatever, I was like, what the fuck? I just was like, this is too much for me.
Yeah.
I stayed away for too long.
Yeah, it was always a little weird because you had I liked the two shows, but especially when they combined the shows, because they did that for a few years where they just had SmackDown and Raw, and it was just like every Raw was a Raw Super Show, so it would have SmackDown people on it. So you basically just had two shows, but it was all the same people. And that was when it was really odd that there were two titles, because it just was like, well, now you're kind of diluting the championship. You're taking the stock is going down.
Yeah.
I always thought it was weird too how they even had the like. Why do we even need like an intercontinental champion and a United States champion? That shit was weird too, because those titles just always felt really meaningless. I don't know about. Did you feel that
Yeah.
way?
I don't know because like in a way it makes sense because when it comes to the pay per view, it's like cool to have like a lot of title matches, and it's like, oh, this one's for the U.S. one, this one's for the Intercontinental one, the tag team titles. Like it makes sense to me that there would be like that those titles are like the equivalent of being like, oh, this is like a lightweight title. You don't have to be the WWE champ, but you can be the U.S. champ. I don't know. And it's like I've seen videos where like people just discuss that a lot of those titles' worth are attached to who has them.
Oh,
'Cause
absolutely.
there's like different because there's like been different people that different like performers that bring like prestige to like the Intercontinental or the WWE title. There's like great videos online of being like, oh, the best U.S. champions, in WWE history, and they just break down like their title matches, the storylines. In that sense, it's cool, but it always felt like just being like, oh, that's just like the little boys title. That doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
What matters here is the big boys titles, the WWE or the world heavyweight.
Yeah.
Which to me, I have like associations in my head because the world heavyweight title looked the best on two people. And actually, I want you to tell me like who did it look great on it, and
I
then
know
I'll
what-
tell
I
you
know who
what
you're gonna say.
those two people were.
Okay, these
Go
are the
ahead.
two that I'm guessing. I'm
Yeah.
guessing Triple H and Batista.
Yes.
Those were the two?
Triple H and Batista. Those are the two.
Let's
Those
go.
are the two dudes
I knew it, dude.
where they would have on that title, and I would be like, this is where it deserves to be.
Oh
this
yeah.
is where this is the waist that deserves to be around that title.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Undertaker. I'll throw Undertaker in there too.
Yeah, Undertaker. I'll throw Undertaker in there too. He was a great holder of that title. What about the WWE one? For me, honestly, in all honesty, it's like one person.
I just pictured
You know
John
who it
Cena.
is. It's just John Cena because he
He
made
made
that
that
title
thing-
like his own.
That thing was ugly for a while, man. I was glad
Yeah.
when they changed the look because he made it look like that. He did the
Yeah, that
spinner
spin.
toy.
Yeah,
It looked ugly, man.
yeah.
CM Punk
But because
even
of
made
that,
it.
I associate with it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I still remember as a kid too, like CM Punk making a joke about it, where he was like, "Once I take that title from you, John, I'm changing the look because that thing has been far too ugly for way too long," or something like that.
Yeah, that's
But yeah,
funny.
I agree.
Oh,
I
that's
agree.
great. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, but I always associated him with it. I know that Edge had stints with it, and like Orton. To me, it was always like it's just John Cena's title. It's just
Yeah.
waiting for John Cena to come back around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can picture Randy Orton is a solid one too to picture with that. Edge, honestly, both world heavyweight and WWE title,
Yeah.
both of those I can.
He had a
you know,
good run with that world heavyweight title.
Yeah, he held both of those like
Yeah.
multiple, like a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Always like through really underhanded means. Like
Of course, that's who that man was.
he was a great villain.
That's just
man.
who the man be, man. He was great.
He really was
was great.
awesome, man. I loved that. Like,
Yeah.
dude, they really just they were the writers, and I'm not an expert on how much. I know a WWE wrestler has like some control over their character's direction too. So for the sake, assuming that Edge had some control over it, I'll lump him into like him and the writers both, like all of them. They did such a good job with that character because I feel like their strategy was just like, how low can this Edge character go? You know, just like
Yeah.
how weaselly and slimy can we make this guy, and let's just do it. Like I remember there was one match where the dude was getting beat by John Cena, and he literally takes out brass knuckles out of his tights and hits John Cena with brass knuckles. I'm like, you bastard, man, you bastard.
Yeah.
And then there was the time,
Yeah.
dude. There was that whole stint where he gets married to Vicky Guerrero, who's like the general manager of
that's right.
SmackDown, just so he can get
Yeah, just to
special
get ahead.
privileges. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
fucking phenomenal, man. And then
Yeah.
there was the time when he cashed Money in the Bank on the Undertaker. Undertaker's a bloody mess. Just got done with a match
Yeah.
with Batista. Then Mark Henry comes out, whoops him for no fucking reason other than that Mark Henry wants like to get over with the crowd or whatever. Then Edge comes out and
Yeah.
cashes it on him. Undertaker like
back to back to back.
like Undertaker's like in a coma, and then Edge just cashes
Yeah.
in on him. Oh man,
Yeah.
he's a super villain for the
Yeah.
ages, man.
Yeah, he was great, man. He was. I think he's still in, right? He has like a year or something left in there. He said that he believes he can still do it for like a year at a competitive level.
Yeah,
I read like a post about it. I'm like so far away from it, man, because it's like now, like I think now, like what is it? Logan Paul is in there and stuff. It's like, dude, I can't. Like, I don't think I can ever go back. You know?
yeah. He
I don't think I
he
can
had a
ever
match
go
with
back.
Roman Reigns back in like I
Yeah.
think it was like November or something. But
Yeah.
he actually, I mean, you know, I watched some of that match. I mean, Logan Paul was doing some high flying shit. I mean, you know, he was looking good out there, man.
Well, no, I mean not anything on him in that sense. It's just like
No,
I
I
think
know.
they're like, yeah, you know where I'm going. You know where I'm going with this. It's just,
Just
like
his
the
presence.
appeal is just not. Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
I think it used to be something. You know, I think they should have let those guys keep doing like performance enhancing drugs. They should have let those guys keep being roided, because there was, there was something about that, where it just felt like that show had such like an interesting specific energy, where it's like, oh, this is like really like over the top, like masculine,
Yeah.
and it feels like I can't watch it anymore. It just doesn't have that anymore.
Yeah, well, that's why I only check in on it to see what Brock Lesnar's up to. Like that's what I care. Brock
Yeah.
Lesnar and like Roman Reigns. Those are the new like they're the ones kind of carrying the company now. Them and like Seth.
Yeah.
There's like Seth Rollins, you know, and some other guys, but like Brock Lesnar's he's the new Undertaker. You know, he's that guy now.
Yeah.
He's the Undertaker who comes around like every so often. He even has like his own version of the gong, which it's just like that sound, that like wow wow wow, that sound. It's like, oh fuck, it's Brock Lesnar. You know, that's like his version of the bell, the Undertaker's bell.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear what you're saying. There's, you know, WWE also has become very mainstream these days. It used to be more of like it was always popular. I mean, WWE's always been like, you know, like 30,000 per show. Every WrestleMania's got like 100,000 people in the stadium, but but it was always sort of an underground kind of thing where it was just like the fans, but now it's become mainstream, where like you said, like Logan Paul, it kind of started in the 2010s where they started having all the guest hosts on Raw and stuff like that. They'd always have celebrities come in now and then, but they started having a guest host on Raw every week, you know, like a really famous celebrity. You had like Mark Cuban, you know, you had Cedric the Entertainer came on. I remember Buzz Aldrin hosted one. Like, it was just a bunch of people. But nowadays it's even more so, where it's, you know, like again, you got Logan Paul in there. The Rock's coming around more often these days, you know. So it's gotten more mainstream nowadays.
Yeah.
Even to the point where I feel like a lot of like they're like them and UFC are kind of stealing from each other. Like WWE steals some of UFC's kind of you know, promotional style, and UFC steals a little bit of promotional style and like entertainment factor from WWE. Like, you know, it's interesting these days, man.
Yeah.
But what you got for us this week, Edward? What you got, man? Anything you wanted to talk about?
What I got for you is a small movie elimination versus.
Let's go, man.
So let me see what you think about this. This is the first one. Two big popcorn movies. I got Jaws versus Infinity War.
Jaws is an OG, man. Those are hard to compare. I mean, I've definitely seen Jaws more. I would just have to go with Jaws because I'm more familiar with Jaws, and I know that I've only seen Infinity War once.
Mm.
Jaws.
Uh, Dude, I'm gonna go with Infinity War over Jaws.
No
If
love to
only one of these two
Spielberg.
movies can exist. Yeah, if only two of these movies can exist, I'm gonna go with Infinity War. I'm gonna take the hat take.
Oh, exist? Like one of them has to not exist?
Yeah, dude, one of them doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, the Infinity
Ah,
War or Jaws.
I'm going with
Yeah, you're
Jaws,
sticking with
man.
Jaws.
I'm sticking with
Doubling
Jaws.
down.
So the one we
Okay.
say, the one just for the sake of people listening, so they don't get confused, the one we say is the one we
Yeah.
keep.
Yes. So this is a movie elimination. So I would keep Infinity War in existence, and Jake would keep Jaws.
Okay.
Now the next one is The Matrix versus Kill Bill.
I'm keeping the Matrix.
The Matrix, that easy of a choice that was.
Yeah. The Matrix. I like Kill Bill. I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, Kill Bill, absolutely. Yeah. I think Kill Bill is just a better movie. I think it's more entertaining. I think it's like, I'm with it more. Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 way more than The Matrix for sure.
I think I like the grittiness of the Matrix. A lot of
And I-
times I'll go with the grittier film. I mean, Kill
Yeah.
Bill's gritty, but it's also
Yeah.
cartoonish.
And I'm 100% down with all of the Matrix movies just disappearing. Like, I would, because if we eliminate Kill Bill, then the second one goes too. So if I'm eliminating the Matrix, I'm okay with the Matrix 2 or the Matrix Reloaded or all the silly movies that they made after that. And I think back to like this Tarantino quote where he said he went to see, it was like he had like a competition. It was like Kill Bill had come out, and it was like the second or like third Matrix or whatever. And he said that he went to the movie to see it, and he was like scared. He was like, "Oh man, they came out the exact same weekend." And he said that when he came out of the Matrix, he came out singing like a Jay-Z song where Jay-Z says like something along the lines of like competition, it's nothing, And he was like just like so full of himself because he was like, this movie sucks. And I stand with Tarantino.
What? Wait,
Yeah.
which Matrix was it again?
I think he was talking about like the second one.
Yeah, because the first Matrix
Yeah.
came out in '99, I think, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
it must have been.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Matrix 2 and 3, those are different
I
stories.
stick with Tarantino. Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing: I've seen the Matrix a bunch of times. I've only seen Matrix 2 and 3 once as a kid, like middle school.
Yeah.
So I don't even
Yeah.
remember. I remember scenes from them. I remember like the action set pieces from them, but. I've been meaning to revisit those too. I'll probably revisit. Those are very like good summer movies. I got my summer movie list stacked, bro. But I don't like the way I said that. Stacked, bro. Sometimes you say something and you're like, oh, I sounded like an idiot when I said that. That was one of those moments.
Oh, dude, that happens to me often.
but yeah, maybe I'll revisit those because. Obviously 2 and 3 have some good action set pieces, but are they good movies? I don't remember.
Yeah.
The consensus seems to be no, but those kind of like the Star Wars prequels have also had some revisitation from people where it's like people start to see like, okay, these are not as bad as we remember. But, considering that was possible with Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, I'm not gonna hold my breath. We'll see.
I'm eager to hear what the opinion is.
Yeah.
But now I have like a more serious one. This is the last one of this like little roulette. This is No Country for Old Men versus Dragged Across Concrete.
Oh.
Go on that one.
Wow, Edward. Dude.
I thought that was like a good like, little verses for those two movies.
That's the toughest one you've given me.
And I feel like it's good because they're not attached to any franchises. So if they disappear by themselves.
Yeah. Well, so I give both of those a 9 out of 10, I believe.
Yeah.
Honestly, man, I'd probably keep Dragged Across Concrete.
I would keep No Country for Old Men.
So we didn't agree on any of those.
I don't think I agree on any of them, dude.
I
I
think
don't think I agree on any single one of these movies.
because I think man, I don't know. I think just for me, Dragged Across Concrete holds more of a special place in my heart for
Mhm.
me. Like I think there's just something. They're both brilliant crime films, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
and I've seen No Country for Old Men. I think like 2 or 3 times. I think probably 3 times in my life. Like with different people, and I gotta say, like, No Country for Old Men's a great story. You know, there's so much great about that film. And I mean, the author of the book, Cormac McCarthy, I've read um, some of his other books, or at least one of his other books, Blood Meridian, which is wild. If you ever look that up, that's like known as the unfilmable film. Like people have tried for decades to make that movie and
I've
or
heard about that.
that book
Yeah.
into a film, and it's like they just can't figure out a way to do it. Uh, But I will say I don't really enjoy the third act of No Country for Old Men, to be honest. I really don't think the first 2 acts of No Country for Old Men are fantastic, and I just think they sacrifice a lot of what they built up to in the third act of that story.
Mhm.
I really do.
Mhm.
I understand sort of the philosophical kind of musings and stuff that we're supposed to get out of that third act. I get all that. I really, really, really do get that. You know, don't get me wrong. I know it's very thoughtful and there's a lot there, but I just think they squandered, just from a writing perspective, they squandered like a lot of the tension that they created. I'm not saying that, you know, they need to go like full on Hollywood in the third act and have like an epic kind of, you know, over the top kind of thing. No, but what I am saying
Mhm.
is, you know, they should have built up. It's called a climax for a reason. You know, you have a climax. It's when everything comes to a head, and it's like there's no climax really in No Country for Old Men. Honestly, if you look at it from a story perspective, that's my
You struggle with the
justification.
Coen Brothers, don't you? Yeah.
Well, I
You
mean,
struggle with those boys.
a little bit sometimes, not
Yeah.
with all their movies, but with some of them, yeah, because a lot of times they do that expectation or expectation subversion. Yeah, that whole
Yeah.
subvert your expectation thing, but people give them a
Yeah.
pass on it, and it's weird. Like they never give other films a pass for it, you know. Like, you
Yeah.
know,
I
whenever
give them a pass. I'm guilty.
you are because
Yeah.
because and I get like not all subverting expectations are created equal. Like you can do it in a good way. There is like a way to do it. I think Dragged Across Concrete does it pretty well. But even in Dragged Across Concrete, I'm not really a fan of the way they do that. It's namely with Jennifer Carpenter's character, where you know you would think like, oh, this is gonna be somebody. She's gonna be like the hostage that they take, and it's like, oh nope, she's dead. You know. I'm actually not a fan of that. I thought the movie actually would be better. That movie might even be a 10 for me. Not a 9, but a 10 if Jennifer Carpenter's character was the hostage instead of that random lady. Sometimes I just don't. I'm like, why are we subverting expectations here where I get that you have this like shocking moment that kind of packs a punch, but you're sort of breaking Alfred Hitchcock's whole thing of like, you know, you have the bomb under the table that goes off suddenly and you have 5 seconds of shock versus stretching out the rubber band and having like this, you know, I feel like Tarantino is really good about that where he never does anything like that. He always has things pay off. And I don't know why people give Coen Brothers a pass for that because I get just as upset with them as I do when I watch something like The Last Jedi and they do something dumb like that, and I'm like, "Whoa, what the fuck? You just killed him? What?"
Yeah.
Not saying that, you know, again, the Coen Brothers, most of their films are far superior to like The Last Jedi or whatever. But anyway, rant over. I'll shut up now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but you know how I feel. You know that I do give them a pass for that because for me rather, it works in those movies, and like I think a big one for you and I is what is that movie? that other, you know what I'm talking about? That Coen Brothers movie, a Serious Man.
Serious man.
I know that a Serious Man is like a big one for you and for me that we agree on, but I usually am able to just kind of look at it
That we
and be like,
disagree
okay,
on.
I respect it. But I respect that movie, and I respect it when they do it. So I can see where we're like, clashing here, but it's pretty funny that every single one of these, you and I looked at it differently. I'm gonna do my best to, when the next time that we do a film elimination, to make it so that this happens again. That you and I just completely disagree.
Yeah. There's like too much agreement sometimes between us on this podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Look at that. Completely, just no, just nope. Every single one. No, 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 no. Good, pretty cool.
Hey,
That's what I got, my friend.
that's the beauty of it, though, man. People listening, they don't know whether we're going to disagree or agree. You know,
Yeah,
it's unexpected.
yeah.
Couple things that I wanted to touch on before we get into movie news and then wrap up. Oh man, I wanted to go into the forgotten employee story again, but
We have
I
to
feel
make we have to make time for that. We keep pushing it. Yeah, we have to do it next week at the very least.
like yeah, we need to like have just a huge section where I just finish that fucking story. Honestly,
Yeah,
I feel like it's
honestly.
better when you
Yeah,
read the whole thing anyway. Um,
yeah,
so maybe we should just do that on one episode, but like
yeah,
have a time block, like a 30-minute time block for it.
yeah.
But a couple things that I wanted to talk about. So I had another I had this section a few weeks ago. I want to bring it back. Underrated villains.
Mm.
Now I had forgotten last time when we brought this up, we mentioned a few underrated villains. And then that night, I rewatched Reservoir Dogs, and I was like, "Fuck, I forgot about
Mm.
Mr. Blonde. Mr. Blonde, he's a freaking
Yeah,
underrated villain, man. Freaking,
yeah.
dude, I never realized what he said, because he's torturing that cop in the warehouse, and anyone who's seen Reservoir Dogs knows what I'm talking about. But Mr. Blonde's torturing that cop in the warehouse, has him tied to a chair, cuts off his ear, it's like cutting his face with a razor blade while stuck in the middle with you is playing. Horrific scene. Then he soaks the cop in gasoline. And then he like lights up the lighter and he's like, the cop's begging him and he's like, "Y'all done? You through? Y'all done?" And then he like says something. And then of course Mr. What is it? Mr. Orange or whatever shoots him. I forget the colors, the nicknames for them. But I was like, what did he say? So I put on the subtitles. He goes, "Have some fire, Scarecrow," which is from Wizard of Oz. When the Wicked Witch says it, she says it to Scarecrow. She's like, "Have some fire, Scarecrow." I
Huh.
thought that was funny.
Okay.
Tarantino with his little movie references.
Yeah.
But kind of ironically, or unironically maybe, that leads me to my underrated villain of the week, which is the Scarecrow from the Batman franchise.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I can see that. That villain always gets overlooked in those movies because there's always a bigger, better one. It's always like, oh, the
Yeah.
Joker or who Bane. Or in this newer one, I don't even remember in the new one. I don't even remember what the villain was. The Riddler. Yeah, the Riddler. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the Scarecrow always gets overlooked, and I know that you do have like a spot for him in your heart.
Yeah. Dude, the Scarecrow, like, he's always also known as Jonathan Crane. Oh yeah, you knew that because I wrote in
Mm,
college we had an assignment where we had to write a short film, but it was like an adaptation of an existing IP.
mm,
And mine was a Scarecrow origin like short film basically. And it
mm.
was around the time that the Joker film was out too, so it was kind of good timing. And it inspired me. I was like, you know what would be awesome if they made a Scarecrow standalone film? And I think that's in like pre-development. Like I think different screenwriters are trying to make that happen right now, different producers.
Mm.
Um, but I would love to see that. But I would love to see Scarecrow be like a big threat in a Batman film for once. Because of course he's in Batman Begins. He makes a small cameo in Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, but he's in Batman
Mm.
Begins as like the secondary antagonist, which whatever. I mean he's great. Cillian Murphy's great in that movie, but it's like he's not the main threat in Batman Begins. Um, and I just think the Scarecrow, you could do so much with him because it's this, especially because someone even had made a YouTube video and I haven't watched it yet, but I saw the title really intrigued me and I saved it to one of my playlists. But they're talking about, they're apparently making a case for why the Scarecrow should be Batman's archenemy and not the Joker. And I'm guessing my hunch is where they're going with that is the whole fear idea. Because Batman's whole thing is fear, you know. That's why he dresses up as a bat, because when he was a kid, what happened in Batman Begins? He falls into like a bat cave or something, and he has a bat
he falls
phobia.
into like a bat cave.
Yeah, and that's his whole thing is fear, you know, the confronting that, you know, and that's one of the big themes of Batman Begins, with thematic elements is the whole fear thing, which is why they include the Scarecrow in there. But so I'm guessing that's where he's bringing that argument. But to show you what, and by the way, on a design level too, let's just show you. I want you to type in, Edward. Type in the new Batman Adventures Scarecrow. On a design level, this is what could be done with Scarecrow. This motherfucker is scary, man.
Wow, look at that. Yeah.
Dude, this was from the Batman the Animated Series, I think it was like season 3 or something. They rebranded it as the new Batman Adventures, but it was essentially the same show. And they redesigned Scarecrow. And he looks like a freaking corpse.
Yeah.
He looks like Leatherface.
Yeah, he does. He looks like a ghoul.
Freaking terrifying, dude. Horrifying. When I was a kid, the Joker, I watched Batman the Animated. Oh my God. I watched Batman the Animated Series when I was a kid, and the Joker freaked me out, but this motherfucker freaked me the hell out when I was younger. Dude, I actually remember having like actual nightmares about this version of Scarecrow. Like absolutely terrifying. So, you know, anyone who's able to look that up, the new Batman Adventures Scarecrow, this is what you could do with Scarecrow on a design level. I'd love to see a live action version of this. But yeah, I love it, man. The whole origin story of Jonathan Crane. He was this psychiatrist at Arkham Asylum, and then he got kicked out for doing experiments on the patients. It's already like, oh man, this guy's a bastard, man. Yeah. And then he creates the fear toxin, which it's like a hallucinogen. So, you know, I know you know this, but you know, anyone listening who's maybe not too familiar with the Scarecrow, basically he dresses his appearance too is probably the most malleable throughout out of all of Batman's rogues gallery, because Joker always looks like Joker, right? White painted face, red lips, green hair, you know. Riddler, always a guy in a green suit. Two-Face, always a guy with half burnt face, right? Yada yada. But Scarecrow has a very malleable appearance. Like he can look. He's had the most range of designs, but generally he is dressed as a Scarecrow. And for anyone listening who's unfamiliar with the character, his main weapon is his fear toxin, which is like this gas that's a hallucinogen, and when you inhale it, it makes you hallucinate your worst fears, basically. Yeah. Which is pretty scary to think about. You basically inhale it and you have this horrible panic attack and you see things that you're afraid of. And also the Scarecrow himself will look scarier to you as well. And oftentimes his suit doubles as like a rebreather, so it prevents him from inhaling his own toxin. Which I've noticed that in like movies and games and the cartoon, like the way he's always defeated is Batman
just
finds a
making
way
him inhale.
yeah, that's always the way he's
So
defeated.
it's like, what about you smell this blood? What about you? What about you do this?
Yeah.
What about you do this?
Yeah. Like in
How's that
Batman,
how's that gonna make you feel? Yeah. Not very
Yeah.
good.
exactly. Because in Batman Begins, I think he says something like, taste your own medicine, doctor, or something like that. And he like shoots it right in his shoots the toxin right in his face.
Yeah, he goes ballistic.
Yeah. But in they had that because they had the Batman Arkham games, and Arkham Knight, Scarecrow was actually the main villain in that one, and it was actually I saw some clips of the cutscenes, and the voice was actually a lot like my favorite interpretation in the Batman animated series, where it was just this very like kind of low, like creepy, whispery voice. Fun fact: they cast the in not in the game, but in the Batman animated series, when they redesigned the Scarecrow, they recast him, and the guy they cast was the guy who played the Reanimator in those old 80s horror films. But that's another great aspect of that version of the Scarecrow is the voice. Really fucking creepy.
Yeah.
But that's my underrated villain of the week, sir.
If I could give a shout out to like an underrated villain, I would give one to another Tarantino villain, and it would be to Ordell, the villain from the Jackie Brown movie.
Oh, Sam Jackson.
I think, yeah, Sam Jackson. I think he's great in that role. Like
Yes.
Tarantino doesn't usually like give him roles like that. He usually wants him to be kind of like a cool guy, but in that movie, I think he actually plays that role like fantastically.
Yeah.
Great villain. I would say he's a great villain. People talk about him in that role. People usually just like say the movie Jackie Brown, and they just say the movie. They don't like say what's great about the movie, or like, you know what I'm saying? People just be like, oh, that movie's underrated. It's like, why? But I think him being in that movie is part of that. Like how he like does Chris Tucker in that movie. His relationship with Robert De Niro and Robert De Niro's character in general in that movie is fantastic.
Lewis,
so I would say
used to be beautiful.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. Yeah. So many iconic lines. I think his villainous role in that movie is great and hardly talked about. So I'm gonna go with him. Yeah.
That's a solid choice, man.
Yeah.
Dude,
makes you want to rewatch a movie, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does, and it's making me think of that scene too. the best scene in that movie, man. I don't know what the best. I want to hear your best scene in that movie, but my favorite scene in that movie is the scene where Robert De Niro's character and that woman go to the mall to like pick up the package.
That's the one that was in my head. That's the one that I was thinking about.
And he shoots her because they go outside and she's just nagging him the whole time, which is terrible.
Yeah, he's
it's
like,
terrible.
enough. He's like, enough.
Yeah, and he's like, don't say another fucking word.
No, it's
Don't say
horrendous.
Yeah, and then like by the end, she's just like, she gets the point, and she just goes, "Okay, Lewis," and he shoots her. It's awful, man.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny to watch his character the whole time, like start to boil because he can't find the car.
Yeah.
He's like, she's like, "Where? Are you sure this is where the car is parked, Lewis?"
Yeah.
Like,
Oh man, underrated movie, underrated performance by De Niro. Because that's also another one that they don't mention by him. And I don't think De Niro ever did a performance like that. He's not in a starring role. He's just like playing like a sidekick to Samuel L. Jackson, but amazing performance too.
yeah,
It was great, man. Great movie.
yeah, it is, man. It is. We got to revisit that one for sure.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I'll skip unmade film of the week just for time's sake because we've we've tangented, and I'll go into.
We really honor the name of this podcast, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Take it seriously. Film tangents.
Yeah, we don't call it film tangents for nothing. I mean, we came up with because we came up with that name.
We came up with that for a reason.
Yeah, because that name. The name made sense for me because you and I have always just gone on tangents that just flow into different tangents, into new threads. Ever since we started going to college together, so
Yeah.
I was like
Yeah.
immediately like that name makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I'll go into some movie and TV news here, Edward.
Yeah. I know a couple of movie news, so I'm looking forward to you mentioning a couple of them.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, and if there's any that you want to bring up too, just throw those
Yeah.
in. The first thing, of course, that caught my eye was, as a huge Godzilla fan, huge fan of the Big G, the design of Godzilla for the upcoming Japanese Godzilla film has been unveiled.
Let me look that up.
And it looks good, man. I mean, it looks good. It's not, it's back to form. It doesn't look like it's not all outlandish like Shin Godzilla. Which I'm having trouble actually finding that picture again, because I saw it, but I don't know where it is now. If I find it
What's
again,
the name of the new one?
The new Japanese Godzilla movie?
Yeah.
I don't know if it has a title yet.
Because I know that Anno is not directing it, but I think he wrote it, and I think Shinji Higuchi, like his co-director for the Shin Godzilla, I think he directed it.
Oh, got you. Oh, here I found it. Yeah, it's a very like traditional Godzilla design, like because they've been going both in the American version and the Shin Godzilla were kind of departures. Like they kept the general spirit of the design, but I mean the Shin Godzilla obviously went with like a sort of zombie Godzilla design where it was like Godzilla mixed with a zombie mixed with like a frilled shark. And then the American Godzilla made him like really like burly and kind of fat, and like, which is hilarious. Yeah, which is hilarious because he's an American Godzilla. kind of ironic. But this literally this design looks just like the '90s version of him, like from the.
Looks angry.
So determined. Exactly. He looks kind of determined. No, he has kind of a similar build and like facial kind of structure or whatever.
You're sending it to me because I don't seem to be able to find it.
Yeah, I'm sending it right now. There it is. I mean, it looks just like those '90s, the Heisei Godzilla era.
Yeah.
That's what they call him in Japan.
Where do you send it to me? Send it to me like in general or in pod?
General.
Let me see.
Oh
yeah, there he is. He does look determined.
Yeah, man.
Looks ready for a fight. He looks like people owe him money.
Yeah. So they were going back to that really. Oh yeah, dude. He looks like a freaking loan shark. He's coming after you, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, man, they're going back to that traditional Godzilla design. Because, they've been taking a lot of liberties lately. Nothing to, because again, like the 1998 quote unquote Godzilla movie with like Matthew Broderick or whatever, obviously took massive liberties with the design to where it wasn't even really the same character. Yeah. Exactly. It was to the level of the way X-Men Origins took liberty with Deadpool's character. It was to that level where it was like, this is a disgrace. This isn't even the same character. But, nothing to that level. But again, like, Shin Godzilla and then the MonsterVerse Godzilla, definitely unique Godzilla designs. And this one is kind of going back to, it's definitely a return to form. I like it. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how that is. Because honestly, man, like, the next Godzilla versus Kong movie's coming out. And honestly, man, I'm already tired of these American Godzilla movies.
I am too. Yeah.
They suck, dude. They're not good. America just doesn't. America doesn't understand the monster, man. They don't
Yeah.
understand the monster. They make it like a Michael Bay movie, or 2014, that version. You know, that it was a decent. 2014 was a decent attempt. Where,
All right.
yeah, I mean, that movie's just really boring to me, honestly. I've tried, like,
Yeah.
I rewatched that movie one time, and I was like, this is boring, man. Because they tried to do
Yeah.
sort of a Spielberg kind of thing, with
Mhm.
that movie, like a Jurassic Park type thing, and that just didn't work. And then Godzilla King of Monsters, I think, has so far been the best American attempt, where they threw King Ghidorah, Mothra, Rodan in there.
I disagree with that. You didn't like that movie at all.
Well, that
I didn't
movie
like
was
that movie at all.
really, I enjoyed that movie. That movie was, like a attempt at the Showa era of Godzilla, which was the 60s and 70s. Those were like the Monster Mash kind of Royal Rumble WWE type days of Godzilla,
Mhm.
where they actually took inspiration from pro wrestling in those days with Godzilla, with those Godzilla movies, and they were just crazy, outlandish, and just fun. And Godzilla King of Monsters, I thought, was a good American sort of like attempt at that. I thought that was decent. I did
Yeah.
not like Godzilla versus Kong at all. That's when I realized,
Neither did
like,
I. Yeah.
terrible. That one was really like they're just trying to do like a Transformers kind of movie, but it's with
Mhm.
Godzilla, and I
Yeah.
felt that way
No,
with Godzilla King.
that thing was horrible.
It was terrible, awful movie. Kong Skull Island, I didn't think much of either. Honestly, I didn't think
Yeah.
Godzilla or Kong Skull Island was good. I didn't. I thought it was like barely decent. Had barely
Yeah.
any story. No character, barely any character, no character development really. And
No,
it was just,
but it did have John C. Reilly. That's something.
yeah,
That's something. He had something. He
Yeah.
put some salt in that movie.
Yeah, but yeah, and don't get me wrong, man. I don't think Godzilla King of Monsters is whatever. I don't think that movie's all that either. I thought there was like there were some. It's like, as a Godzilla fan, I go and I watch a Godzilla movie, and with that one, it was like, okay, I can enjoy this one. But I have gone back and watched like the clips of the monster fights in that one, and again, it is just like, it's like watching Transformers. It's just so Hollywoodized, and so bastardized for American audiences, where it's just like,
Mhm.
America just doesn't, they just can't do Godzilla like the Japanese can do it. Whereas like when we watch Shin Godzilla, I'm like, yes, this is Godzilla. This is the monster. He's representative of something. He's representative of nuclear power, and and then you have this like social commentary in it, and it's somewhat grounded, but there's also some over the top moments, and there's the right amount of suspense, and I don't know, man, there's just that Japanese flavor that is lost in the American one. So that I could give a shit less about Godzilla versus Kong, the next Godzilla versus Kong or whatever. I don't even know why they're making another Godzilla versus Kong. We already had it
It made
anyway.
money, massive. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know why they're not moving on to like something else with Godzilla, and just fuck enough of Godzilla versus Kong. Like, we saw that shit already.
Yeah.
For me, I'm like, at this point, it's like, who cares? I don't even know the release date of that. I don't care. I'm ready for this next Japanese Godzilla film.
Yeah. It's been a while for the Japanese ones.
Yeah.
They've made like how many like American ones in between that time? Like 2, 3?
Yeah. There's been 3 American ones, 4 if you count the Kong Skull Island one, because it's in the same universe.
Yeah.
And so 4, let's say, and 1
man.
Japanese Godzilla film.
Where did I get to it? Show them how to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's
more,
the thing.
because they did with Shin Godzilla. They should just do it again. Be like, this is how you make these movies.
Exactly. And that's the thing. They take their time with it to make a quality product. Not to say that all the Godzilla movies have been great. There's bad Godzilla movies from Japan, but they all still kept that spirit. I feel like that it's just kind of lost in the American movies. It could just be who knows, man. It could honestly just be placebo, where just because it's a Japanese film, it feels a certain way.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm watching.
This is doing it for me. This is the way.
Yeah. Who knows? But I don't think it is placebo. I've tried my best to put it into words, but there's a creativity, I think, too, that the Japanese take, where I feel like each iteration of Godzilla they've tried to do something different with him. There's certain standalone Godzilla films where he has like a different origin. There's even one GMK from 2001 where it's a standalone Godzilla film, because they have several series of Godzilla films that have continuity, but then they have especially at the turn of the century, they started making just a bunch of reboots where they would just have standalone Godzilla films and just try new things. And in 2001 they did a reboot, GMK, which was the Godzilla was like a straight up villain in that film, and he was fighting Earth's guardian monsters. And his origin was not even atomic, and he wasn't radioactive in origin. His origin was he was made flesh, the souls of all the people killed in World War II by Japan, by the Imperial Japanese Army, which was super interesting, coming to take vengeance, basically.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, exactly. So, point being, the Japanese have always found a way to give Godzilla something unique, and again, Shin Godzilla is another great example. Super unique take on Godzilla.
Yeah. Yes. And if Anno has any involvement with it, if he's writing it, then I'm looking forward to it. Whatever is going on there. Even if he's not, I'm still looking forward to it.
Oh, hell yeah. Moving on here. They're doing another Final Destination film. I haven't seen any of those. Okay. Yeah.
One of those. They're just these weird gimmick movies. They're not even one of them is good. They're just a bunch of gimmicky, you were supposed to die in that accident and death is after you. It's all right, I got it.
Yeah, I never found them. I never found the idea. I am meaning to watch at least the first one, just to say I've seen it as a horror fan.
That's the best one.
Is it? Because
they just devolve into just being comedic. They just devolve into how can we one up ourselves? It becomes one of those things we did that before, so now we have to figure out more crazier ways. It just becomes 1,000 Ways to Die, the movie. Honestly,
that makes sense. Yeah, because I always found it just a super boring sounding idea. There's not even a physical villain. It's just death, but it's unseen. I don't know. I always found it uninteresting in terms of getting me to want to watch it. I always thought that just sounded lame to me.
Yeah.
Eric Andre season 6 returns June 4th.
And I haven't even seen the last season of the show, because a part of me just feels unmotivated if Hannibal's not in it.
Really?
Yeah, because I love Hannibal, and I don't know what happened to that guy. I think you should probably look it up, because it's I love Hannibal's stand-up. I loved him. I thought that him and Eric were just such a great duo. And the fact that he didn't come back for season 5, and if he doesn't come back for season 6, it's man, what happened, man? You gotta get Hannibal in there.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that road trip. I enjoyed that road trip movie that Eric Andre made. I forget what it's called, but it's on Netflix. People can look it up. Yeah. But it's really creative, because he just did those street pranks, and he wove them together into a narrative with him in it. It was actually brilliant. It was a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. I always loved Hannibal's presence, and how he just sits. He just sits there, man. He's just
there, man.
Or no, he doesn't even sit. He stands awkwardly near the guest.
He stands. Yeah, there's no chair for him. He just hovers over the guest. I mean, like it seems like Hannibal's been doing just like voice work and just like TV like one-offs and episodes and stuff. But it's like if I could tell that guy anything, it's like just go back to being in the Eric Anders show. Just go back. He says
Yeah.
he started in the Eric Anders show from 2012 to 2020. What a fall off.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. Moving on. Reviews for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 are in. Seems like kind of a mixed reception from the last time I
It's kind of what I've seen. That it's like it from what I saw, like it leans more towards the positive, but it was not like stellar, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Still, gotta watch it. Big fan of that franchise. I like all of the movies they've made so far. I've 1 and 2. I like them, so I want to see the third one.
Yeah,
like James Gunn.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, I mean I'm gonna watch it at some point. The trailer for Oppenheimer dropped. Is that how you say it? Is it Oppenheimer?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about that. Yeah, Oppenheimer. Yeah, I'm excited for that. The whole atomic bomb movie that Nolan's making, starring Cillian Murphy. I'm really excited for that. That's like the first one movie I've been excited for since Interstellar.
Yeah. You still haven't seen Tenet, correct?
No.
We talked about that. That's right. I recommend Tenet. I actually really enjoyed Tenet.
Yeah. I know you did. Yeah, I know you recommended it.
Which I know that movie's been controversial. It's a mixed bag. People either loved it or they hated it, or like it was kind of like lukewarm. So, yeah, it really was just a mixed bag. I don't know if it was only love or hate. I feel like there were a lot of people that thought it was okay. I really liked it. I wouldn't say I loved it, but I thought it was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that comes out, looks like July 21st. So that should be cool.
This summer. Yeah.
Yeah. Got a stacked cast, man. Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh, Jack Quaid from The Boys, Rami Malek, Matt Damon, Emily Blunt. I mean, damn, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's stacked.
Devin Bostic. Is this who I think it is? Yeah, he played Roderick in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. He's in it.
Oh, really? That guy? Well, good for him.
Good for that guy, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I always loved dude, he was like the best part of those Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies. He was hilarious in those. He played that role so well. 100%. And same, Cillian Murphy, dude. He's a great actor, man. I love that guy. He's awesome in Peaky Blinders. I mean,
I'm glad that he's like getting like a starring role in this movie, because it feels like Nolan has like shortchanged him every time.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, it's you. You're the guy now. So I'm excited for that.
Exactly. Yeah, I love him in. He was the only good part of Quiet Place 2, and I loved him. I love 28 Days Later. Huge fan of that film. He's freaking awesome in that movie as well. So yeah, excited for that. The Meg 2 trailer dropped. I saw
that trailer.
Oh, you watched the trailer?
Yeah, just because it was like a YouTube ad. Yeah, it was like a YouTube ad, and I was like, what is going on? What is this? Because initially I thought that it was just like an ad for the movie 65 with that dinosaur movie. I was like, oh, is this that dinosaur movie? And then the shark comes in, and I was like, oh, this is like a shark movie. And then I was like, oh, this is like a weird sci-fi shark movie. And then I was like, oh, it's the Meg 2. I went through like different stages of being like, what kind of movie is this? What is going on? Jason Statham was in there.
That's so funny, man. The poster that I saw was the shark basically about to bite down on this dock that has like a little dog on it, and I'm like, why did you put a little puppy on the dock? Why wouldn't you put a man there to make the shark look even bigger? I don't know. It was a weird choice. Kind of a nitpicky thing. I'm like nitpicking their marketing, but I just thought it was kind of dumb. but yeah, I'll watch the Meg 2. I mean, the Meg 1 the first one was fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a little puppy. Yeah, you're right about that. It's silly.
It's dumb. It's
silly.
Like, why wouldn't...
Yeah, it's dumb.
They should put a man there and to scale, have it scaled the same size as the puppy in that photo, and that shark would look fucking
They
gigantic.
did that just for the sake of like. They did that just to create like conversation. People would be like, "Oh, that's mean. That's not nice." Like, I think it's just really just to create some kind of like, oh, it's provocative.
Yeah, probably right.
It's the people going.
They're continuing the trend of making these like horror movies out of children's properties. Next one up is a Bambi horror movie called Bambi the Reckoning.
Okay.
Which I have to make sure. Yeah, no, this is not a joke. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to fact check myself. Yep. Nope. That's the best. That's the next, rather. After Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and the mean one, we're getting Bambi the Reckoning.
Reckoning. All right.
It says, inspired by the animated movie Bambi, it will transform the innocent deer we know into a killing machine.
Okay. That deer's really out to get us.
I could at least the whole idea of Winnie the Pooh and like the Grinch, those could be scary, but I'm not afraid of this whole Bambi thing like at all.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. No. No, I don't know. I don't know how they're planning on making that work. I don't know. That's silly.
I don't know.
It's one of those like straight to video like movies. That's just going to be like on Amazon.
From what I'm seeing, I don't know if this is an actual still from the movie, but it looks like a guy in yeah, I believe this is an actual still from the movie because it's in an article about the movie, but it's like a guy standing in a field with I don't know if he has a deer's head or if he just has a deer mask on with antlers. I can't tell because of the way it's shot.
Like a guy, not an actual deer. Like a guy possessed by a deer. Something like that, probably.
Yeah.
Spirit of revenge.
Do the Wendigo, that whole like Native American demon. They just did a movie about that called Antlers. I heard that was shit. Anyway. And then the last thing, the very last thing I wanted to mention before we get into recaps and then our review is
Freaky Friday remake or sequel.
No.
I thought we were gonna talk about that. Yeah, today they announced that Lindsay Lohan and what's her name, Jamie Lee Curtis. They announced that they both signed up for a Freaky Friday sequel.
Wow.
Yep.
They'll do anything and everything these days.
Oh yeah, dude, yeah. Because they know people got nostalgia for it. If Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan are down, they're like, yeah, let's make another one.
I have nostalgia for that movie.
Another Freaky Friday.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't seen Lindsay Lohan in freaking years.
No, why? Long time. Yeah. So I guess this is her opportunity to make a John Travolta comeback.
Well, good for her, man. And then the last thing I was going to mention is apparently the new Exorcist film had a test screening in New York and it bombed. Like people hated it. So, yeah, it's a little concerning.
It bombed?
Yeah, it just people shat all over it. So, it was a little concerning.
Well, it's not coming at the right time for people. This. It's not January. It's a little late for it to be a bad horror movie.
Yeah, it's actually coming out in October, I think. So,
really? Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
So I'm sure if we're if we're hanging out in October at some point, because Edward and I live in different cities in case you folks didn't know. But we hang out pretty often, every couple of months.
Yeah.
Meet up. But for a weekend. But if we're hanging out,
won't go
in
out
October,
to see The Exorcist.
Yeah. We always end up seeing shitty horror movies in theaters.
Shitty ass like horror movies. Yeah, we're not doing that. We're not watching The Exorcist. Watch something else.
Yeah. I feel like Cocaine Bear was like the best luck we had with horror movies in theaters. We were together and like that still kind of sucked.
yeah, that wasn't great, but it was something. It was an improvement. We're walking towards better pastures.
Yeah. Had better days, Lois. Had better days. All right, Edward, give us your recap.
Hey, let me give it to you, sir. My recap starts and ends with Freddie Gibbs, the same man that we talked about. We talked about at the beginning of the podcast. Old spread, um, old Spreadie Gibbs. I listened. I listened to like 8 of his albums. Um,
Damn.
I listened to Babyface Killer, which I think it's like really underrated because it has incredible songs in it.
Oh yeah.
EFK, Still Living, Money Clothes, The Hard, Push Loud, Walking In with the MO, Out About It. So the first 7 songs of that album, and all of them are really good songs. Especially Walking with the MO and About It. Yeah, they're
Oh,
great.
I'm
Um,
doing what I do, dog.
They're all great, man. And then Box Frame Cadillac, Middle of the Night, On Me, Tell a Friend, Breaking Bad, song number 17. They're all great songs, man. Great album. Super underrated. We don't talk about that enough. Um, Obviously, I followed that up with Shadow of a Doubt. It's okay. It's Shadow of a Doubt is just really him trying to do mainstream, and Freddie Gibbs is not very good at doing mainstream. Like, he really is just like truly, 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 he really is just like a really great um rapper, like over, this like Mad Lib, The Alchemist, kind of more like jazz rap instrumentals, soul sound, like soul samples, just like, that's really where the man shines. And there's some cuts where it's like, okay, this is like more of like a, you know, um, trendy like track that you're trying to do. And I think it really only ever worked for him in Sold Separately. It was the first time that I could say like it works more here, because in Shadow of a Doubt it doesn't work. This whole album, it's almost just like a throwaway album because it's just full of attempts. And
Yeah.
the only one that I could any credit to is the song Mexico with Tory Lanez. I actually like that one. That's song number 7. Otherwise, this was just not. There are not a lot of highlights here for me. Then I listened to Piñata, which is as close to a 10 out of 10 as that album can get. And I only don't give that album a 10 out of 10 just because I don't like the song Piñata. Every song in that album except for the song Piñata, which is like 10 minutes long.
That's my
And
only problem with it. It's because
yeah,
it's too long.
it's too long. It's too long, and there's bad features in it. Like there's people in there that are just okay. I don't like Mac Miller in that song. Like it's just too long. I don't love the song. I only like the first minute of it. I never listen to the whole thing. I always give up halfway through. Otherwise, every single other song in that album, especially like Lakers,
Yeah.
Thugging, like incredible
Robes.
songs. Yeah, Rose 9 out of 10. Like to me, that's just like great album. It only has one flaw, which prevents me from being like this is a true 10 out of 10.
Yep.
Listened to You Only Live Twice, which is his third album, officially like his third solo album, and it's only 32 minutes long, 8 tracks long, and the only track worth listening to it are 20 Carat Jesus and Crushed Glass, songs
20
number 1 and
Carat
number 3.
Jesus. Yep.
And 20 Carat Jesus is not even that great. It's 20 Carat Jesus is like half of it is good, and then the other half is okay. Because it's like 2 songs spliced together. So
Yeah.
I don't
I like the
stand by
first
that
half.
either.
The first song.
Yeah. So to me, Freddie Gibbs solo albums, Shadow of a Doubt and You Only Live Twice, both of those solo albums to me are just failures, like mediocre albums with some decent songs in them.
Yeah.
Listened to Freddie. His I think what his like 4th solo album at this point. Yeah. So Freddie, this album just titled Freddie with a picture of him looking like really like he doesn't know what's going on. He's like kind of like surprised, like like this.
Like he's spreading.
Just like, the song, the album Freddie's okay. It's like an improvement on the other two. Still him trying to be mainstream. Still him not recognizing what his strengths are.
I feel the same
No
way
real,
about that
like-
album. Yeah.
Yeah, no. This is another to those 3 solo albums from him, Shadow of a Doubt, You Only Live Twice, or You Only Die Twice, or whatever. And yeah, You Only Live Twice. And Freddie are just kind of mediocre albums with like attempts. And there's like a handful of good songs in each one of those albums, but each overall they're just mediocre, you know. Um, Listened to Bandana, which is great. Specifically, you know, the songs Crime Pays,
Mhm.
Palm Olive with Pusha T and Killer Mike, Giannis with Anderson Paak, and Education with Jassim Bey. And who's the other guy in there? Another guy in there. No, who's in there? It's
Black
like
Thought.
him and oh, Black Thought. There it is. Okay, yeah. Okay, so
I love
those
Soul Right
specific.
as well. Soul Right's great.
Yeah. Soul Ride's great. Soul Right's a great closer for it. Goddamn is a great song too.
Mhm. Dude, that was
Situations is a great
Goddamn.
song too.
Goddamn was the song that I would. Dude, I feel like I always played Goddamn whenever you and I would leave a
Yeah,
party. Like that was like the
yeah.
winding down
Great
song in
song.
college.
Yeah. Great song, and Cataracts is a great song. So that's a great album. It's him and Madlib. Him and Madlib made two great records together. So then I listened to after that one. As you can see, this is a bunch of albums. That's why it took me like so long to just get through all of these. I listened to Fetty with him and Currency, and it's great. 8 out of 10
yeah.
album, great album. Every single song in that album is great. Every single one of them, short to the point. The Alchemist production, fantastic. Everything's good.
For me,
Listened,
Tapatio's my favorite off that one.
yeah. What would it be for me?
I used to play
I
the
think it
shit
would
out of
be.
Tapatio.
For me, I think it's The Blow. I think I love The Blow, and I also
Man.
love Willie Lloyd. I love those two songs.
Yeah.
Let me see. So, and I especially because he has that Djokovic reference, and I always like bump to it. It's like, yeah, switching rackets like Djokovic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It's true.
so then I listened to Alfredo, which is his album with The Alchemist, and that's another one where it's like 9 out of 10 record. You know, that's like so good, like near perfect album. 1985 is a great opener. God is perfect. Scotty Beam with Us That Never Disappoint. You know, Frank Lucas with Benny the Butcher. Something to Rap About with Tyler. All great songs. Babies and Fools with Conway the Machine. Skinny Shug, and then the closer All Glass. Great. You know, amazing, Alfredo. And then today I listened to Soul Sold separately. My opinion of it decreased a little bit just because I couldn't stand like the trappy songs. Even though I say that this is the album where he kind of succeeds at it a little bit more than in the other ones, the trap songs in here, you know, Pain and Strife with Offset, too much with Moneybag Go, like those are like the worst songs in this album. No,
Yeah.
they're like tolerable, but they're the worst ones, you know.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Blackest in the Room, you know, Lobster Omelette, Space Rabbit, Feel No Pain, Rabbit Vision, PYS, Dark Hearted. All of those songs are the best songs, and all of those songs are the soul, the soul, and like the jazz, you know, rap songs. You know, all of those are the best songs in the album. Gold Rings with Pusha T, Grandma Stove. You know, Decoded is also a great closer with Scarface, who has an iconic delivery and an iconic line that Jake and I always reference.
Fuck 12. Fuck 'em.
Fuck 'em, yeah. Great,
Dude,
great, great,
there's
great,
a.
great.
I just found this as you're talking about Freddie Gibbs. I'm following along like with his discography, and there's a bonus edition of Soul Sold separately.
I did. I listened to it today. Yeah. Honestly, there's nothing there for me.
Really?
I
Oh
listened to it
shit!
and I didn't end up adding anything. Like the first track of the bonus is just some trap song. The song with Schoolboy Q is the one that people usually like from it, and it's okay, like at best. And I didn't like the song like Ice Cream, I think it is with Rick Ross. I didn't like it either.
Oh, you
I didn't
got
really find anything
Jadakiss.
in there to like, yeah, yeah. I didn't find anything in there like worth it, honestly.
Yeah.
But obviously, you might have a different opinion from that.
Yeah, we'll
But like
see.
you, I found that he released a deluxe like you did. Now let me ask you a question, sir. Give me your top four Freddie Gibbs albums.
Um, it would have to be Soul Sold separately. Um,
Give them to me like in order, like either from 4 to 1 or 1 to 4.
uh,
Best
I
to
would.
worst to best.
Yeah, I would say. I would say my favorite. this could be subject to change. I just don't want to. Ah, dude, that's fucking hard, man. I would say
I know what mine is, but that's why I wanted to ask you this.
number one has to be Pinata. Like that's a legendary
Agree.
album.
Yeah.
Two, I'd put Soul Sold Separately. Three,
Mhm.
Bandana. Four, no, three, Babyface Killer. Four, Bandana.
Okay, this is
For me.
my top four. This is my top four Freddie Gibbs. Are you ready for this?
Yep.
Pinata, Alfredo, Bandana, Babyface Killer.
Okay. So we had like almost the same list. Similar
But
at least.
but you excluded Alfredo from there, and I didn't put Soul Sold separately in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'll have to listen to Alfredo again. It's been a while since I've listened to it.
I was so impressed, like re-listening to that, just how like good, just back to back to back it is.
Yeah.
You know how legit and how solid the quality of that record is. Just how good The Alchemist is, and how good the features are. Everybody's great in there, and how good that opener is. 1985 is amazing. You know,
Yeah.
and I just came out of that being like, yeah, this washes Bandana. I was like, this is like close to being his best record. So that's why to me it was like, okay, Pinata, Alfredo, you know, which is like a toss up for me at the moment, which one of those two is even better. But Pinata, Alfredo, actually, yes, Pinata's the better record. Pinata, Alfredo, you know, and then Bandana, then Babyface Killer. I think
Okay.
Babyface Killer actually washes Soul Sold separately.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Out it.
yeah, no, I think you're right actually. I would probably switch those two.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. Babyface Killer has better songs than Soul Sold Separately. You can't beat
Yeah,
Bout It
but it's
Bout It.
obviously
That's
easy
such a
for me.
good song.
It's obviously easy for me to say, you know, just because I just listened to those things.
Yeah. I mean, dude, you could have an EP with Bout It, Walk In with the MO. It had like Breaking Bad and Tell a Friend, and like it'd probably still be maybe superior to Soul Sold Separately. It's like so
Yeah,
good. There's no shade to Soul Sold
yeah,
Separately. It's just Babyface Kill is a legendary album. But
yeah,
yeah, Tell a Friend is the first, I think, Freddie Gibbs song I ever heard. Besides Still Livin', which obviously I only heard that because of Grand Theft Auto 5, but I didn't even know who that was
yeah.
at the time. So I would not even count that. I would say Tell a Friend is the song that introduced me to Freddie Gibbs. And I think it was like senior year of high school. I was like, this guy's awesome.
Yeah. But there you have it.
All
Next
right.
week, for me, I think that the big one that I'll be tackling is going to be Future. So look
Let's
forward to that.
go.
Let's see if he gets into any controversy.
That'll be awesome, man. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say about Future. Because Future's got a good,
Yeah.
he's got a solid discography, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll try to get through as much as I can because he's big. It's a big discography.
Yeah.
I'll probably just listen to like, you know, the ones people really are into and not just like all of them. I'm not gonna listen to all of them.
Yeah.
I'll try to listen to just like the classics, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sounds good,
Yes, sir,
man.
what you got, man? What you got?
Yeah, man. I'll run us through real quick in the interest of time here. Okay. So movie wise, I only watched one movie since the last two movies, including the movie of the week. But this past weekend, I watched a movie called The Summer, or just Summer of '84. Summer of '84. Have you ever heard of this movie?
Mm.
It's a '80s nostalgia horror film. It's got it all, man. It's got the kids on the bikes. It's got the E.T. Stranger Things kids. I knew that going in, and I was like, cool, I'll just roll with it because I've been interested in seeing this movie. It's been on my watch list for a little while. And for the situation, it just felt right to put this one on. So I was like, yeah, this will be good. And it's pretty good. I gave it 6 out of 10. I mean, it's an 80s nostalgia horror film. It's nothing like too special, but it's pretty suspenseful. The basic plot is just this: there's a serial killer on the loose in this town, and this kid suspects that his next door neighbor is the killer. And so him and his friends spend most of the movie trying to find evidence on the guy. And so there's a lot of sneaking around, a lot of clue gathering, a lot of, trying not to get caught, snooping around kind of thing. And it's, it gets creepy at times. It gets pretty suspenseful. And it has a pretty solid ending, a pretty scary ending, actually. And then as far as other stuff, TV wise, I started the show. So I've been finishing up Mr. Robot, and then I'll usually watch like a couple shows at the same time. Like I'll have a show that I'll watch at lunch, like on my lunch hour. My lunch hour show has been
It's a long show.
I'll have my lunch hour show has been Vikings, the show Vikings. Have you heard of that show?
I have, yes.
Yeah, on a History Channel, which it's been on my radar for a while because it's like up there in like, if you look at lists of like the greatest TV shows of all time, like Vikings is up there. It'll show up on a lot of lists, it's in that like B tier of these are the greats. It's one of the greats of TV. And I can see why. It's pretty, it's pretty binge worthy. It's got really good, first of all, just the production quality, it feels like how it should, it transports you back to the time of the Vikings, the age of Vikings, right? And it has a very Game of Thrones kind of feel. There's a lot of like politicking, but it's not with big kingdoms. It's just within like this Viking sort of warlord clan. So it's interesting, man. And of course, Vikings, that's always awesome, man. Gets the blood, gets the testosterone pumping, man. Makes your balls grow. Puts a little hair on your chest, So I love that machismo stuff, man. That stuff's fun, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. But it's a good show. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm, partway through season 1. It's good. I listened to the Don Toliver Lovesick album. I was so underwhelmed by this album. Like this guy didn't even try with this album. I actually really, I think each album he's done has gotten progressively worse. Like Heaven and Hell is actually a good album. He dropped that like right before the pandemic back in the day. That's actually a good album. I would recommend that one. I know you're well past the D's at this point, but and I don't recall you didn't go through Don Toliver's discography.
No, I'm not going either. Honestly, dude. I'm not going to.
I recommend Heaven and Hell. That's a short album. Short. It's not like one of those streaming service spamming albums. That's a quality album. I like that one. It's what you'd want out of Don Toliver. It's very catchy songs. And then Life of a Don I thought was okay. And then, but Lovesick, dude, he's not even trying on this album. This is like one of the most boring albums production wise. The features suck. Don Toliver sucks both both lyrically, which lyrically it's like whatever, he's going to talk about the same stuff on each song. That's fine. But voice cadence, he's doing the same thing that Nav started to do, where he just sounds like a robot, and he's not even doing any sort of inflections in his voice. He's not like moving his voice up and down and doing any sort of range. He's just sticking to like this flat line, and it's boring. It's fucking boring. It's like every song it's like every song is the quality of a Travis Scott single, which again, my stance on Travis Scott is I love him as an artist. His albums are awesome. His singles between albums suck. They're terrible. And each song on Lovesick is of that quality where it's like, this is a guy talking into a mic with a robot voice, just flatline.
I told you, dude, I listened to that thing and I was like, this is some garbage.
Garbage, dude. You were right. You warned me. You tried.
Told you.
And then I actually saw, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, I went to a stand-up comedy club, and I saw T. Murph live, actually. The comedian T. Murph.
Who's that?
He's pretty famous. He's an up-and-coming comedian. He was on, I think he was on Stephen Colbert like a few weeks ago. But I saw him like a few days after he was on Stephen Colbert. But yeah, T Murph, he's funny, man. I think he's
Oh,
open
I
for
see. Yeah.
yeah. I think he's open for
Yeah.
I want to say Kevin Hart, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Hart presents. Da da da. But anyway, so yeah, saw him live. Had front row seats to that. Man, that was
Yeah.
fun.
Great.
He's hilarious. I highly recommend T Murph. He's funny. He's
Yeah.
really funny, man. He had some really good jokes about Trump. He had some good jokes about he had a lot of really good material about the pandemic and like remote learning and dealing with like
Mhm.
living with your family like all day and he was great, man. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed that. So that was fun, man, getting
Yeah.
out to the comedy club, CT Murph live. That was good.
Yeah.
But that's what I've been up to, man, the past couple weeks.
All right. With all of that being said, what do you say now that we're all primed up? What do you say we talk about Primer?
I'm primed to talk about Primer, Edward.
Well, sir, what did you think about Primer?
I wanted more from this movie, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
man. I thought it was pretty good, but I wanted more from Primer. And when I say
Mhm.
more, I actually mean less because this movie gets really convoluted, man. It gets
We get
really
super convoluted.
it's
Yeah,
so confusing.
it's confusing, honestly.
Yeah, and it just I kept thinking back to Time Crimes, and I was like, I
Mhm.
think Time Crimes was I think almost like probably just as thoughtful as Primer was about time travel and about the consequences of time travel and and causality.
Mhm.
Um, is free will, right? Is there free
Mhm.
will if the timeline's already been determined? Do you even have free will?
Mhm.
If you're just in this time loop, this causal loop, um, that kind of thing. That movie was just as thoughtful on those topics, but it made it super palatable by only having three or not even three, two trips back into time. So there were like 3 Hectors basically in Time
Mhm.
Crimes. So you had sort of this Harry Potter Prisoner of Azkaban kind of thing, but it was like double, right? So in Prisoner of
Mhm.
Azkaban, that movie, they go back and they see themselves, but in Time Crimes, it's that, but it happens once more. So there's like 3 different timelines where he's watching himself and causing things to happen.
Mhm.
And I just thought Time Crimes made it so much more palatable and just consumable, and easier to
Mhm.
follow. Where Primer, you could in Primer, you could have done they could have pulled this story off. They didn't even it wasn't even in the writing so much as I think it was in a lot of the editing. It didn't help
Yeah.
that a lot of the film, because they could have done the same plot where they travel back in time just as many times, and maybe it'd still be a little confusing and a little bit hard to
Mhm.
wrap your head around, and that's fine because it was the same with Time Crimes. You have to sort of catch up with the film. But they could have done that with Primer if they just, one, made the editing, a little, they slowed the pace down maybe a little bit. And two, another thing that made it worse was the use of mumblecore dialogue,
Mhm.
which for those out there who don't know what
Mhm.
mumblecore is, basically you've seen it if you've seen Uncut Gems. Mumblecore is basically dialogue that is it's used in Curb Your Enthusiasm as well. It's very improvised dialogue. It's supposed to sound like the way people actually talk, which they talk over each
Mhm.
other, interrupt, things like that. That's mumblecore.
Mhm.
Um, Uncut Gems is probably the best mainstream example of it. But all of
Mhm.
that combined, so you had like, you know, super kind of choppy editing at times where even like within the scene, you'd have jump cuts. You'd have a lot of jump cuts, a lot of, you know, just quick cuts between scenes, really quick scenes. So it was like super fast paced. that combined with mumblecore dialogue, combined with a super, super convoluted and complicated story,
Convoluted.
just equaled mass confusion, just massive confusion. And
I agree. I agree with you, man, because I think it really just came down to the execution, you know, where
hang on,
and
Edward,
I guess
you
yeah.
sound really choppy. Let's end the call quick and hop back on quick.
All right, let's do it.
Can you hear me? Can't hear you. I can see you.
Yeah, hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now. All right, say like a full
Okay.
sentence.
Hey, I'm saying a full sentence, full sentence,
All right,
full
yeah.
sentence.
Hey, good. Go ahead.
But what was the thing with that movie where the in me doing research about how it was made, I learned that Shane Carruth made this movie with a $7,000 budget. And the movie is shot on film, on 16 millimeter film, because this movie came out like when 2004, yeah, 2004, and so basically the guy just did the best he could. I mean, people were just working on this movie with him like pro bono, like with $7,000, you don't really have money to pay even anybody. Apparently, most of the budget just went down to just the film, buying the film stock, and he directed, wrote, edited, production design, like he did everything in this movie. It was just him. It was a one man army, and all of the things that he did for this movie them for the first time. So it was his first time like editing a feature film, first time writing one, And all of that being said, it was, I mean, extremely impressive.
Yeah.
That he did this hour and 20-minute movie out of this first attempt. And but I think people attribute this movie's like headiness to just kind of like like really big brain writing, and I think that's not where it comes from. I think this movie being convoluted just really comes from what you said, and it is that it's like really just like faulty editing. A lot of the dialogue is just like barely like audible. They're talking over each other. There's a lot. He had to do a lot of like ADR for this movie, just audio recording over the existing footage.
I could tell
A
in
lot of
certain
like
scenes too.
I can tell certain scenes because the voices don't even match like the lips, So I think this movie's convolutedness, I think, can really just be attributed in large part just to the filmmaking, and how like amateurish a lot of it is,
Yeah.
and how he just couldn't figure out how to make things work. Because he said he spent almost 3 years editing this movie, and it was because of that. Because
Wow.
with the lack of footage, he was just trying to make it work somehow, make it make
Wow.
sense. And I think it shows, dude, where again, I applaud him for this movie. I think there were points in this movie that were like really fascinating, really cool,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. But obviously they didn't come together all the way, And it just ended up kind of being messy and like super convoluted.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I definitely, and I went on YouTube after and watched like a whole video kind of explaining like with a diagram and everything, like this I forget Abe 1 and David 2, it's just
Abe
like
and Aaron.
Abe and
yeah.
Aaron, that's right. Abe 1 and Aaron
Yeah.
2 go. Aaron 2 goes back, but Abe 1 stays here, and then Aaron 2 becomes Aaron. I was like, oh fuck, man! No
Yeah.
wonder I didn't. No
Yeah,
wonder.
no, it's a whole mess. Like not only not only is the plot like extremely like convoluted in itself, just like all of these filmmaking shit and shenanigans that he couldn't get together just adds to it just being nearly incomprehensible,
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't. I sort of understood like the gist, of
Yeah.
what was going on, but I couldn't. It was like from the midpoint on, it was just I kept having this feeling that I kept getting the feeling that I'm sort of a step behind, and not
Yeah.
in a good way, like not in that.
Exactly. No, same here.
Yeah.
Same here. Because like you said, like when the movie ended, I was like, I know how we got here, But all throughout the movie, I was like, just being like, did I miss like a piece of information that was like
Yeah.
really relevant? Because I don't remember like missing it. It just never was. Just never was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Primer would really have benefited, I think, from a scene where they just slowed down and no mumblecore dialogue, no talking over each other, interrupting, whatever. Just hey, like even if you had to do an exposition dump kind of thing, I would have forgiven it in this case. Like, okay, fine, go full on Ghost in the Shell Matrix with the exposition.
Yeah, just tell me what's going on.
Just literally like,
yeah.
okay, hang on, like so. What you're saying is that this and that,
Yeah, exactly.
There was a scene like that in the beginning with like the protein buildups and stuff that was super helpful, and they needed another one of those scenes in the mid.
They did. They
midpoint.
needed another one of those. They needed another like moment of just being like, hey, what are we doing here again? Let's all like, let's come back down and like talk to each other. What happened, like you said.
Yeah, but
it was needed.
Exactly. As for the positives of this movie, I mean, I really like, again, like what we were saying, what you touched on, just the fact that it's sort of like the movie, again, like Time Crimes, like Another Earth, movies like that, where it's like this kind of hard sci-fi, light sci-fi in a way, especially Another Earth is kind of like that, where it's like, you have this idea, this low budget kind of thing, but we're doing this high concept sci-fi idea, but we're using limited resources, and therefore it kind of feels real, because sci-fi stuff like Star Trek, stuff like that can actually feel like it's in the realm of fantasy and like it's not even a possibility. But movies like
this is very grounded.
Exactly, but sci-fi, hard sci-fi, what makes it so great is that you really feel like, oh, this could happen. Like when they're in that garage just building this device that turns out to be a time machine, I'm like, this makes me feel like I could actually just go build a time machine,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm like, this makes me feel like I could
cool,
actually,
man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that was cool. And just having this like two knuckleheads just like doing this, and then just being like, oh, like how can we, just take advantage of the stock market and like just doing like little shenanigans. Yeah, that was pretty cool, man.
Exactly. Yeah. Which I would I would love to see this kind of idea combined with the Time Crimes idea in a way where it's like, these guys really face like some serious kind of consequences on the level of Time Crimes. Yeah. Because the one thing that I think where this movie succeeds, where Time Crimes maybe falls short in a way, is that he wasn't the main character isn't the one who actually built the time machine in Time Crimes, so it's like he's not really suffering the consequences of time travel,
actions,
of playing God in a way, which
that was exactly of messing with time.
Yeah, I will mess with time.
Yeah.
Rick and Morty reference. But what were some of your positives that you took away?
I mean, the same thing that it was for you, and just that whenever it would kind of escalate with them, just kind of being like, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and it would become this like weird, just like two dudes, like kind of like in over their heads, but like seemingly just like trying to get somewhere. I was like really captivated by that. I like the music in the movie too.
Yep.
And what else? Let me think. I think that's it, honestly. It's just like I like the movie conceptually, I didn't really like the movie like in execution, but I did find them just hanging out like to be fun. Just them in that hotel, like eating sandwiches and playing like chess and whatever. I was like, this is cool, man. Like I vibe with this. I vibe with what you guys are trying to get away with here. But yeah.
I would say I really enjoyed probably the first half of this movie.
I did too, yeah.
Yeah, especially that I love the whole idea of just seeing yourself from the future. I get
how they saw that guy. It's like, look over there. It's like it's him.
Yeah. I always liked that idea. That's what I liked about Time Crimes, and what I find captivating about the whole Harry Potter Prisoner of Azkaban time travel sequence or whatever. It's a really because that brings especially like seeing yourself and realizing that you were the one who caused X to happen in the future, then it really calls into question, you know, your free will if you're in this causal loop, you know.
Yeah. I also liked I liked like the even though they didn't do anything with this, but I liked like their weird like brain bleeding stuff,
Yeah.
and I liked how they just became one into like right, you know. They didn't go into that at all, but I was like, oh, this is interesting as like physical consequences of what they're doing. You know, I thought that was cool.
I agree with that because I actually did just even right at the beginning, because I knew kind of where the film was going just from watching the trailer and just knowing the synopsis. Unless you went into the movie completely cold, you'd know.
I did. Classic Jay. Watching a trailer for a 2004 movie.
But you knew that it was a time travel movie. Like you knew
I
at
knew it
the
was a time travel
beginning.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, so you knew at the
Yeah.
beginning when they're making this machine that it's eventually going to
It
be
was
a
going to
time
be
machine.
shenanigans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that at the beginning, when they have this box and they're putting shit in it, and I'm like, okay, this is the time machine. At some point, someone's gonna get in this thing, a man-sized version of this thing, and they're like pumping it full of whatever. They have like a propane tank and they're pumping it full of shit. I thought of that and I'm like, is this safe to get in this fucking thing? Like, is it?
Yeah.
And like you said, then they tackled the physical consequences of it, where they're like, oh, this is actually like disrupting our, because you think about it, man, time traveling, what would that do to you physically? That can't be fucking, time traveling is very unhealthy, like,
Yeah.
it seems like, or traveling between universes, like Rick and Morty. We look at that and they're just hopping around, but it's like, fuck, if I travel to a parallel universe, how do I know I can even breathe their fucking air over there?
Yeah, exactly.
These are
Exactly.
these are the things that hard sci-fi tackles.
Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating shit, man.
Got anything else on
Yeah.
that movie?
No, I got some trivia, and like, because I already kind of said a little bit of it when I was talking about it, but the only other thing that I have is that apparently he's friends with Ryan Johnson, Shane Carruth. Ryan Johnson stated that this is the best time travel movie ever made. And Darren Johnson said that he sent Shane Carruth the script to Looper, and that Shane Carruth just sent it back to him, telling him that the time travel was all wrong. So he was like, "Dude, you got it all wrong." But
I think Looper's better
Yeah.
than this movie, honestly.
I think Looper's better than this movie in execution. But in time travel terms, the time travel in that movie has been called into question multiple times. But that's a different thing.
Yeah, I don't remember
Yeah.
what, because I've only seen that movie once several years ago, so I don't remember.
Yeah, there's like time flaws in this movie. In that movie, people have taken that movie apart multiple times.
Okay, some
Yeah.
paradoxes, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of paradoxes. But what would you rate Primer?
I give Primer a 6 out of 10. What about you?
Yeah, same here. Yeah, 5, a strong 5,
Yeah,
6 out of 10.
I could go with a 5, but I'm giving it a 6 because this poor guy spent 3 years editing it. I mean, come on.
He did. He spent like 3 years editing this movie.
No.
Something for that.
No.
Yeah.
The real reason I give it a 6 instead of a 5 is just because, again, like, I liked the imagination of it and just that feeling of almost like this is gonna sound weird, but this is sort of a callback to when we were talking about cartoons. There's almost that idea of like, because I think what was so great about that show Phineas and Ferb when we were kids is like you felt like, oh, these two little kids are building roller coasters in their backyard. Maybe I could do that, And this movie sort of has that Phineas and Ferb feel where it's just like these two knuckleheads are just making like this time machine, in their garage, and then you feel like, but I just go to my garage and build a time machine,
Yeah, exactly. There is like a true element of that to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, the first half I thought was better with the setting things up and gaining my interest, and I found like the whole thing with the protein buildup was a really interesting way of introducing the sort of initial suspicion of like, oh, this is something with time, but I don't know what. I thought it was creative, man. Very creative
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Do you have anything for us for next week?
I do. We're gonna keep riding this science fiction train, Edward.
Oh, look at that.
But we're gonna go away from hard sci-fi and into fucking over the top crazy sci-fi. Because
Yeah?
next week's film is going to be one of the craziest fucking movies. It's gonna be a rewatch for me. One of the craziest fucking movie of my childhood. One of the best popcorn films of all time. We are going to watch Godzilla Final Wars next week.
Look at that. Okay.
This movie,
Godzilla Final Wars.
Godzilla Final Wars, was the last Godzilla movie before Shin Godzilla from 2004. This is a standalone Godzilla film. So it was like their ultimate send-off for Godzilla before they took a hiatus before Shin Godzilla 11 years later. This is Godzilla meets Star Wars meets Kill Bill. It's fucking insane.
Wow.
It's an unbelievable
Wow.
movie. They went fucking all out with this movie, and I'm really excited to watch this again. I loved this movie as a kid, man. This was like my favorite Godzilla movie as a kid. I stand by this film. Dude. But next week,
I know this is like I know this is the one that when you told me like to watch all those movies, I just like stopped before I got to this one. So I'm excited to watch it.
Oh man,
everybody get hyped! Next week we're watching Godzilla Final Wars.
That's right. Next week it's going to be GOJIRA, and that is next week, everybody.
Hey, next time on Phil Tangents.
We are out.